In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. All praise is due to Allah, who has sent down upon His servant the book, and has not made therein any deviance.
The properties and merits of Surah Al-Kahf. According to a narration of Sayyidina Abu al-Darda, may Allah be pleased with him, appearing in Muslim, Abu Dawud, Tirmidhi, Al-Nasai, and the Musnad of Ahmad, one who has memorized the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will remain protected from the ill effects of Dajjal, impostor. In another report in the same books, and from the same authority, the same thing has been said about having memorized the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf. And it has been reported in the Musnad of Ahmad on the authority of Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, one who recites the first and the last verses of Surah Al-Kahf, for him there is light from his feet up to his head. And the one who were to recite the whole surah, then, for him there's light from the earth up to the sky. And it appears in some narratives that a person who recites Surah Al-Kahf on the day of Jummah will have light from his feet up to the sky. This light will serve him well on the day of Qiyamah, and every sin committed by him between the past and the present Jummah will be forgiven. Imam Ibn Kathir has declared this report to be mawquf hadith, the narration of which stops at a Sahabi and does not ascend to the Holy Prophet, and Hafiz Ziyad al-Maqdisi, in his book Al-Mukhtasar, has reported on the authority of Sayyidina Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, one who recites Surah Al-Kahf on the day of Jummah will remain protected from every fitna. And if Dajjal appears, he will stay safe against the trying challenges released by him as well. All these narrative reports have been taken from Tafsir Ibn Kathir, according to a report from Dalami on the authority of Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, appearing in Ra'al-Ma'ani. The Holy Prophet said, the entire Surah Al-Kahf was revealed at one time, and 70,000 angels came with it, which shows its majesty. The cause of revelation. Imam Ibn Jarir al-Tabari has reported from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Quraysh of Makkah, disturbed by the rising influence of the Holy Prophet as a prophet, sent 2 of their men, Madar ibn Harith and Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, to the Jewish scholars of Medina. Their mission was to find out what they said about him, as they were learned in past scriptures of the Torah and Injil. The Jewish scholars told them, put 3 questions before him. If he answers these correctly, you should know that he is a prophet and messenger of Allah, and if he fails to do that, you should know that he is a pretender and not a messenger. Firstly, ask him about the young men who had left their city in the distant past, and what had happened to them, for this is a unique event. Secondly, ask him about the person who had traveled through the east and west of the earth, and what had happened to him. Thirdly, ask him about the rock, soul, spirit, as to what it was. That is, he gives the answer he should give, and his correct answer to the question about RT will be that Allah Ta'ala knows its reality best. So this report, which appears in Tafsir al-Tabari, p. 191, v. 15, is not contrary to the report which has appeared on pages of this volume under the commentary on verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 85 of Surah Bani Israel, Muhammad Taqi Ismani. The 2 Quraysh emissaries returned to Makkah al-Mukarramah, informed their tribesmen that they had come back with a decisive plan of action, and told them all about their encounter with the Jewish scholars of Medina. Then these people took these questions to the Holy Prophet. He heard the questions and said that he will answer them tomorrow. But he forgot to say Insha'Allah at that time. These people went back, and the Holy Prophet kept waiting for the divine revelation in the hope that he will be told about answers to these questions through wahi. But no wahi came until the next day as promised. In fact, 15 days went by and things stood as they were. Neither did Sayyidina Jibril come, nor did the revelation. The Quraysh of Makkah started throwing taunts which caused real pain to the Holy Prophet. After 15 days, came Angel Jibril with Surah Al-Kahf, wherein the delay caused has also been explained by saying that one should say Insha'Allah when promising to do something in the future. Since this was not done in the event concerned, therefore, revelation was delayed as a measure of reminder. In this surah, verses relating to this matter such as Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 23 to 24 will be appearing later. Also related in this surah, there was the event about the young men known as Ashad Al-Kahf with the people of the cave, and the event concerning the travel of Dhul-Qarnayn from the east to the west. Also included therein was the answer to the question asked about Ra, Qutubah and Majari with reference to Ibn Jarir. But answering the question about Ra, soul, spirit, briefly was as dictated by wisdom. This was taken up separately at the end of Surah Bani Israel, Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 85, and this is the reason why Surah Al-Kahf has been placed after Surah Bani Israel al-Isra as mentioned by Al-Sayudi. Commentary. The word iwaj in and allowed no crookedness in it means crookedness of any kind, or inclination towards one side or deviation from the norms of rectitude. The Holy Quran remains pure and free of all that in terms of the perfection of its words and meanings. It simply admits of no distortion anywhere, either in eloquence or in knowledge and wisdom. The sense which has been conveyed in a negative or eliminative form through, and allowed no crookedness in it, has been fortified positively through the word qiyama, which follows immediately for emphasis. The reason is that this word carries the sense of mustaqima, and that which is mustaqim, straightforward, straight, upright, will not have the least crookedness or tilt towards any side. However, qiyam can also have another sense of caretaker, custodian, and protector. Given this probability, the sense of the expression would be that the Quran, while perfect in itself, is free from all kinds of excess, deficiency, and crookedness, keeps others upright, firm and unflinching, and protects the interests and advantages of all servants of Allah. Thus, the gist of the two expressions would be that the Holy Quran stands perfect in itself and has the ability to make men and women created by Allah become equally perfect. Mashari.
He has made it straight to warn of severe punishment from him and to give good tidings to the believers who do righteous deeds, that they will have a good reward.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 1 for the Tafsir.
In which they will remain forever.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 1 for the Tafsir.
And to warn those who say, Allah has taken a son.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 1 for the Tafsir.
They have no knowledge of it, nor had their fathers. Grave is the word that comes out of their mouths. They speak not except a lie.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 1 for the Tafsir.
Then perhaps you would kill yourself through grief over them, O Muhammad, if they do not believe in this message and out of sorrow.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 1 for the Tafsir.
Indeed, we have made that which is on the earth adornment for it, that we may test them as to which of them is best indeed.
It was said in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 7, surely we have made what is on earth an adornment for it, with reference to all living forms, vegetation, mountains, minerals, and everything else present on the earth. They are its embellishment. That there are snakes, scorpions, beasts, and many harmful and fatal things may lead someone to doubt as to how can they be called an adornment for it. This doubt is unfounded because everything in this world considered harmful, fatal, or plain bad may be so in a restricted sense, but in terms of the totality of creation, nothing is bad. Everything, no matter how bad, has been invested with many benefits by Allah Ta'ala on other counts. The medical use of poisonous and fatal life forms in the interest of human beings is an example. Therefore, things that are considered even bad are not that bad in terms of the function of this entire universe.
And indeed, we will make that which is upon it into a barren ground.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 7, for the Tafsir.
Or have you thought that the companions of the cave and the inscription were, among our signs, a wonder?
Lexical explanation. Kahf is a large mountainous cave or cavern. If not large, it will be a gar. The word al-rakim literally denotes al-marqam, that is, something written. What does it mean at this place? The sayings of commentators differ about it. Dahak, Sudi ibn Jubair, following the authority of Say ibn Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, declare it to mean a written tablet on which the ruler of the time had inscribed the names of the people of Kahf and had it fixed on the entrance to the cave. For this reason, the people of Kahf are also called the people of Al-Rakim, the inscribed ones. Hadada, Adiyah, Afi, and Mujahid have said that Rakim is the name of the valley adjoining the mountain in which the hollow cavern of the people of Kahf was located. Some others have identified this mountain itself as the Rakim. Ikrimah says, I have heard say, Ibn Abbas saying, I do not know whether Rakim is the name of some inscribed tablet or some town. Had al-Libar and Web ibn Munabi report from Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that Rakim is the name of a town near Ayla, that is, Ekabad, situated in the kingdom of the Romans. Fitya in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 10 is the plural of Fata, which means a young man. The expression, translated as so, we veiled their hearing, putting them to sleep, literally means to plug ears to prevent someone from hearing. It is used to convey the sense of deep sleep. When sleeping, eyes close first but ears remain active. Sounds are heard. When sleep takes over completely, ears stop functioning. Later, when awake, ears resume their function first for sound startles the person sleeping who then comes out of his sleep. Commentary. The story of the people of Kahf and Raqam. There are a few subjects of study in this story. First of all, it needs to be determined whether people of Kahf and people of Raqam are two names of the same group, or these are two separate groups. Though no clarification of this appears in any Sahih hadith, but Imam al-Bukhari in his Sahih has given two separate chapter headings, Ashab al-Kahf and Ashab al-Raqam. Then, under Ashab al-Raqam, he mentions the well-known story of three persons being locked shut into a cave with no way out, which opened later through prayers, and which is there in details in all books of hadith. From this innovative device of Imam al-Bukhari, it is gathered that, according to him, the people of Kahf are one group, and the appellation of the people of Raqam has been used for those three persons who had taken shelter in the cave at some earlier time. Then a huge rock from the mountain fell on the entrance to the cave and blocked it totally, making it impossible for them to come out. At that moment, it was with reference to whatever righteous deeds they each had done in life that the three of them supplicated before Allah, "Our Lord, if we had done this thing for your good pleasure, please open the passage for us." Following the prayer of the first person, the rock moved a little and light started coming in. By the prayer of the second one, it moved a little more. Then, by the prayer of the third one, the passage opened up fully. But Hafiz ibn Hajj has made it clear in Surah Al-Bukhari that, in the light of hadith reports, there is no clear-cut proof about the people of Raqam being the name for the three persons referred to above. What has happened here is that some narrators have added to the report of Sayyid Nu'man ibn Bashir, may Allah be pleased with him, a reporter of the incident of the cave, by saying that Sayyid Nu'man ibn Bashir, while mentioning the story of the cave, said, "I heard the Holy Prophet mentioning Raqam." He was relating the story of the three who got shut into the cave. This addition appears in the report of Al-Bazar and Al-Tabarani as quoted by Fath al-Bari. But, to begin with, none of the reports from the usual narrators of this hadith, which are available in details in the six Sahihs and other books of hadith, have included this sentence of Sayyid Nu'man ibn Bashir, may Allah be pleased with him. Even the report of Al-Bukhari itself does not have the sentence in it. Then, even within this sentence, it has not been made clear whether or not the Holy Prophet had called those three persons who got shut into the cave by the name of the people of Raqam. In fact, the words are, he was mentioning Raqam. Those three were mentioned as a corollary to this statement. As for the difference in the sayings of the Sahaba, Tabi'in, and commentators in general concerning the meaning of Raqam, it is by itself a proof that there was no hadith reported from the Holy Prophet about the meaning of Raqam as determined by him. Otherwise, how is it possible that once the Holy Prophet himself determines the meaning of a word, the Sahaba, Tabi'in, and other commentators opt for some other saying contrary to it? Therefore, Hafiz ibn Hajar, the commentator of Al-Bukhari, denies that the people of Kahf and the people of Raqam are two separate groups. According to him, the correct position is that both these names apply to one single group. A mention of three persons getting shut into a cave could have been made with the mention of Raqam. It does not necessarily follow from it that these very three persons were the Ashab al-Raqam, the people of Raqam. Hafiz ibn Hajj has also clarified at this place that the very context of the story of the people of Kahf, as described by the Quran, tells us that the people of Kahf and Raqam are but one group. This is why the majority of commentators and hadith experts agree that they both are one and the same. The second issue to be determined here is that of the details of the story. It has two parts. Part 1 is the spirit of the story, and the real objective. It provides an answer to the question asked by the Jews, and guidance and good counsel for Muslims as well. The second part deals with the historical and geographical aspects of the story. As for the delineation of the objective, it plays no role there. For instance, when and where did this event come to pass? Who was the infidel king these people ran from and hid in the cave? What were his beliefs? What did he actually do to them, because of which they were compelled to run and hide in the cave? How many were they? Exactly how long did they remain asleep? Are they still alive or are they dead? The Holy Quran, under its wise principles and unique methodology, has not related any story in all its detail and order throughout the Quran, with the sole exception of the story of Sayyidina Yusuf, a common method used in books of history. Instead, it has introduced only a part of each story that was appropriate to the occasion and was particularly related to guiding and teaching human beings. The reason for excluding the story of Sayyidina Yusuf from the parameter of this method appears in the Tafsir of Surah Yusuf, included in Volume V, pages 24. The same method was used in relating the story of the people of Kahf. Here, the Quran has described its particular parts that were relevant to the real objective. No mention was made of the remaining parts that were purely historical or geographical. Of course, mention was made of the number of the people of Kahf. The questions regarding the period of time they remained asleep were certainly alluded to. Even an indication was released towards the answer, but along with it, an instruction was also given that it was not appropriate to investigate and debate such issues. These should be entrusted with Allah Ta'ala. This is the reason why the Holy Prophet, who was duty-bound to explain the meanings of the Holy Quran, never related those parts of the story in any hadith. It is on the grounds of this Quranic methodology that great men among the Sahaba and Tabi'in have declared the essential policy guideline in such matters by saying, "What Allah has left undetermined, you too leave it undetermined." Al-Dikan wa Sayyidi. This approach and conduct of leading Sahaba and Ayabin required that, in this tafsir too, those parts of the story should be ignored as ignored by the Quran and Hadith. But this is a time when historical and geographical breakthroughs are taken as great achievements. Therefore, later-day scholars of tafsir have described those parts as well in varying lengths. As far as Tafsir Maarif-ul-Qur'an is concerned, the parts of the story that have already been mentioned in the Quran will be covered under the explanation of its verses. The remaining historical and geographical parts of the story are being described here within the limits of their need. However, the truth of the matter is that, even after this description, the end result will remain the same, that is, it is impossible to arrive at a categorical decision in these matters. The reason is that writings in Islamic and then Christian history relating to this subject are so different, even contradictory, that one writer determines something in the light of his investigation, opinion, and evidence, while the other prefers something else. Events relating to hiding in caves to protect faith have been many and widespread. One major reason for differences existing among historians lies in the great importance attached to monasticism by adherents to the faith brought by Sayyidina Isa. As a result, there were several instances spread around different regions and countries of the world where some people took shelter in caves to devote themselves to the worship of Allah Ta'ala, living there for the rest of their lives. Now, wheresoever some such event has occurred, it was not so far out for a historian to suspect it to be that of the people of Kahf.
Mention when the youths retreated to the cave and said, "Our Lord, grant us from yourself mercy and prepare for us from our affair right guidance."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 9, for the tafsir.
So we cast a cover of sleep over their ears within the cave for a number of years.
People of Kahf, place and period. Tafsir authority Al-Qutb Al-Angelus, Spain, has reported some events at this juncture in his tafsir. Some of these events that belong to different cities he had heard or seen himself. First of all, he says on the basis of a report from Dahak that Al-Rakim is the name of a town in Rome, the Greco-Roman territory, where 21 men are lying in a cave as if they are sleeping. Then, he reports from Tafsir authority Ibn Atiyah that he had heard from many people that there was a cave in Sham, Syria, which had some dead bodies in it. Attendants said that they were the ones called the people of Kahf. And adjacent to the cave, there was the structure of a mosque and residential house called Rakim. In addition to the dead bodies, the skeleton of a dead dog was also present there. Then, Al-Qutb writes about another event relating to Al-Granada, Granada in Al-Angelus, Spain, again reporting from Ibn Atiyah, who says, "There is a cave in Laja, a village outside Al-Granada. It has some dead bodies, and along with these there is the skeleton of a dead dog as well. Most of the dead bodies have no flesh left, reducing them to bare skeletons. However, some do have signs of flesh and skin still being there. Centuries have passed over this, but nothing is known about them authentically. Some people say that they were the people of Kahf." Ibn Atiyah further says, "When I heard this news, I personally went there in the Hijra year 504 on arrival there. I really found those bodies in the same state. Close by there is a mosque and a structure of the Roman period called Rakim. It seems to have been some palace from the remains of several walls still there. This thing is located in an unpopulated area with wild growth around." He also said, "Remains of an old city are found in the area characterized by higher altitudes in Al-Granata. It is Roman in style. The name of the city is said to be Rakias. We have seen many graves and strange things in its ruins. From what has been said here, it will be realized that Al-Qurtubi, who lived in Spain, avoids calling anyone as the people of Kahf definitely, despite that he has described these events as reported. Then there is the case of Ibn Atiyah, who, despite his personal observation, did not claim that they were the people of Kahf. He rather limits himself to reporting what was popular. But Abu Hayyan, the 7th century commentator from Al-Andalus, Spain, was born in Al-Gharnada itself in Hijri year 654. There he was raised, and there he lived. He too mentions the cave of Al-Gharnada in his Tafsir, Al-Bar al-Muhit, very much like Al-Qurtubi has done. After having written about the eyewitness account of Ibn Atiyah, he says, "When I was in Al-Andalus, that is, before shifting to Cairo, many people went to see this cave. They used to say that despite that those bodies are still there and the visitors do count them out, but somehow they always make a mistake in giving their correct number." After that he said, "As for the city of Raqi as mentioned by Ibn Atiyah, which is located on the side of Al-Gharnada that faces the Qibla, I have myself passed by it so many times, and I have seen unusually large rocks in it." After that, he says, "One reason for preferring the possibility of the people of Kahf being in Al-Andalus could be that it is predominantly Christian to the extent that this particular region is their largest religious center." Tafsir Al-Bar al-Muhit, p. 102 v. 6. Tafsir authority Ibn Jarir and Ibn Abi Hatim, following a report of Afi from Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, say that Rakim is the name of a valley which is located near Ela, Iqaba, south of Palestine. And the two of them, along with other hadith experts, also report from Ibn Abdullah Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that he said, "I do not know what Rakim is. But when I asked Hab al-Ibar, he said that Rakim is the name of the town where the people of the Kahf lived before going into the cave." Al-Manani, Ibn Abi Shayba, Ibn al-Mundhir, and Ibn Abi Hatim report Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, to have said, "We waged a jihad against Byzantine forces in the company of Sayyidina Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, which is known as the Battle of Al-Madik. On this trip, we passed through the site of the cave of the people of Kahf." The Quran mentions it. Sayyidina Muawiyah wanted to go into the cave and see the bodies of the people of Kahf. Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "Let us not do so, because Allah Ta'ala has already prohibited someone better than you from seeing them, that is, the Rasul of Allah. Is it not that Allah says in the Qur'an, if you had a look at them, you would have fled away from them and would have been filled with awe of them?" But Sayyidina Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, did not accept this suggestion of Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, perhaps for the reason that the state in which they were portrayed by the Qur'an related to the time when they were alive, and it was not necessary that they would still be found in the same state. Therefore, a few men were sent to have a look at them. They reached the cave, but when they wanted to enter into the cave, Allah Ta'ala sent a punishing wind upon them that turned all of them out and away from the cave. Al-Ma'ani 227 v. 15. The reports and narratives appearing above establish that commentators have given 3 locations for the site of the cave of the people of Kahf. Firstly, in Ayla near Aqaba on the shore of the Gulf of Aqaba. Most of the narrations from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, favor this interpretation. From the personal observation of Ibn Atiyah and Abu Hayyan's support, it seems likely that this cave is in Al-Gharnada, Al-Andalus, Spain. Out of these 2 places, the name of a city or particular building has also been given as Rakim. Similarly, the name of the great structure in ruins close to the cave in Al-Gharnada has been cited as Rakim. Then, none of the 2 kinds of reports decisively say that this cave was the cave of the people of Kahf. Both rely on popular local talk and oral tradition. As for the old name of the city where the people of Kahf lived, it has been mentioned as Ephesus, as in the epistle of Paul the Apostle to the Ephesians, Holy Bible, key 239, with Tarsus as its Islamic name, in nearly all tafsir reports of Al-Qurtubi, Abu Hayyan, and Ibn Jarir. That this city was located on the western coast of Asia Minor is a fact accepted by historians. This shows that the cave is also within Asia Minor. Therefore, there is no proof to declare any one of these as true and the rest as false. As for probability, all 3 are probable. In fact, no one can deny the very probability that the events relating to these caves, despite being true, may not be relevant to the cave of the people of Kahf that has been mentioned in the Quran. Maybe it is somewhere else. And it is also not necessary that Rakim at this place may exclusively be the name of some city or building. In fact, no one can reject even the probability that Raqam denotes the inscription engraved with the names of the people of Kahf on a tablet and placed on the entrance to the cave by some king. Investigations of modern historians. Some contemporary historians have made considerable efforts to determine the place and time of the cave of the people of Kahf with the help of Christian and European historical accounts. Abul Kalam Azad has declared the present city of Petra near Ela, Aqaba, Arabicized by Arab historians as Batra, as the old city of Raqam. With reference to current historical accounts, he reports the remnants of a cave in the mountain and of some mosque adjacent to it. In confirmation, he refers to the book of Joshua in the Old Testament, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 27, where the place has been mentioned as Raqam or Raqam. According to him, this is the place now called Petra. But this has been considered doubtful, as the reference to Raqam or Raqam in the book of Joshua is connected with the inheritance of Bani Binyamin. Then, this territory was located west of River Jordan and the Dead Sea, where the city of Petra could have not possibly been located. Therefore, contemporary archaeologists are very reluctant in accepting Petra and Raqam as one and the same. Encyclopaedia Britannica, 1946 v. 17 p. 658. Commentators in general have pointed out to the city of Ephesus, a major Byzantine city on the western coast of Asia Minor, the remains of which are still found 20 or 25 miles south of the modern Turkish city of Izmir. Samarna, Maulana Sayyid Suleiman Nadwi, while mentioning the city of Petra in his book, Art al-Quran, has put Raqam in parenthesis. But he has not given any evidence in support of the proposition that the old name of the city of Petra was Raqam. Maulana Hifzurrahman Sihori has also adopted this view. For evidence, he refers to Torah, the book of Numbers, and the book of Isaiah, and gives the name of Petra as Raqamah. Daira al-Ma'arif al-Arabiya, when a cave was discovered in a desolate jungle area close to Amman in the Hashemite kingdom of Jordan, the archaeological department of the government started digging operations on that site in the year 1963 after having removed the upper strata of topsoil and rocks. They found 6 coffins filled with bones and stones, and 2 graves. Towards the south side of the cave, they found inscriptions on rocks in Byzantine script. Local people think that this is the place called Raqam, close to which is this cave of the people of Kahf. Allah knows best. My revered teacher and master, Maulana Ashraf Al-Fan Abi, may Allah have mercy on him, relying on Tafsir Haqqani, has reported the following historical account of the place and time of the people of Kahf. According to this account, when the people of Kahf had escaped the tyranny of the king of the time and taken shelter in the cave, the time was the year 250 A.D. Then they remained asleep for 300 years. Thus it comes to a total of 550 A.D. And the Holy Prophet was born in 570 A.D. Therefore this event of their awakening occurred 20 years before the birth of the Holy Prophet. Then, in Tafsir Haqqani as well, their locale has been determined as the city of Ephesus or Tarsus that used to be in Asia Minor. Its ruins still remain, and Allah knows best the reality of it. These historical and geographical details have been given here from the reports of classical commentators, then from contemporary historians. This humble writer had already submitted that neither does the understanding of any verse of the Qur'an depend on these, nor does any essential part of the objective for which the Qur'an has related this story belongs thereto. Then, relevant reports and stories and their indicators and connections are so different that, despite all investigations and efforts, it is just not possible to take any categorical decision in this matter. Having preferences and inclinations is all that is left to do here. But in our time, educated people have acquired an increased taste in historical investigations. It is for this satisfaction that these details have been reported, for they, by way of introduction and hypothesis, tell us at least this much, that this event came to pass after, say, Ibn Isa, close to the time of the Holy Prophet, and that most reports seem to agree on this being near the city of Ephesus or Tarsus. Even then Allah knows best, and the truth is that we, after all these investigations, are standing where we had started from, that there is no need to fix an exact location, nor can this be fixed with any certain modality. The Tafsir and Hadith authority, Ibn Kathir, has said exactly this about it. Allah has already told us about that, and He expects us to understand it and deliberate into it. And He did not tell us about the location of this cave in a particular city out of this earth, because there is nothing beneficial for us in it, nor does any religious objective hinge upon it. Ibn Kathir, v. 3 p. 75. When did the event relating to the people of Kahf come to pass, and why did they take shelter in the cave? This segment of the story is also the same upon which neither does the understanding of any verse of the Qur'an depend, nor does it influence the objective of the story in any significant way, nor do the Qur'an and Sunnah make any statement about it. What we have here is no more than historical stories. Therefore, in Tafsir al-Bar al-Mu'it, commentator Abu Hayyan has said, and narrators differed in stories about them, and about how they got together and moved out, and the mode and manner of that has neither been mentioned in any authentic hadith nor in the Quran. Al-Bar al-Mu'it, p. 101b. 6. However, when we provided some information about the site of the remnants of the people of Kahf a little earlier, it was in consideration of the curiosity of contemporary temperament. For the same reason, we are providing here brief notes of information regarding the period and causes of the passing of this event from exegetic and historical reports. As for a detailed and comprehensive description of this story, the respected scholar Kadithan al-Panapati has reported it on the authority of different narratives in his Tafsir Majari. But, given here is a brief version of the event, that Ibn Kathir has presented with reference to many early and later commentators. He says the Ashad al-Kahf were the progeny of kings and chiefs among their people who were idol worshippers. Once their people went out of the town to participate in some religious festival of theirs. This was a place where they met every year, worshipped their idols, and sacrificed animals to please them. Their king was a tyrant. Called Dakianes, he used to force his people to worship idols. That year, when everyone had gathered together in this festival, these young men identified as the Ashan al-Kahf also reached there and saw their people taking rocks carved with their own hands as God, worshipping them and sacrificing for them. At that time, Allah Ta'ala blessed them with the good sense to shun this absurd practice of their people. Thus, when they used their reason, they arrived at the conclusion that this worship belongs to none but that Supreme Power who has created the heavens and the earth and everything therein. This thought crossed the minds of those few young men simultaneously, and they started moving away from there to avoid the absurd practice of their people in the fair name of worship. First young man who withdrew went far from the crowd and sat down under a tree. After that came another, and he too sat there. Similarly came the third and the fourth, and each one of them kept taking a seat under the tree. But none of them were familiar with each other, nor did they know as to why they had come there. The truth of the matter is that they were brought together on that spot by the power that lit the light of faith in their hearts. The real foundation of nationalism and collectivism. After having transmitted that, Ibn Kathir comments that people tend to take nationalism and common race as the cause of cohesion and union in social life. But the reality lies in what has been said in a hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, that unity or disunity first germinates in souls, then it affects the bodies in this world. Souls that have experienced congruity and unity among them in azal, eternity, go on to become mutually connected and get molded into the form of a confraternity. As for those that did not have the experience of this mutual congruity and unity in fact, remained separated there, they will remain separated here too. Take this very event as an example and see how the same thought crossed everyone's mind separately, and it was this thought that brought everyone unconsciously together. In short, these people got together at one place all right, but everyone was concealing his belief from the other lest this person reports him to the king and he gets arrested. After having remained there all together in silence, one of them spoke out, "Brothers, there must be some reason why all of us have broken away from our people and reached here. It seems appropriate that we all should get to know each other's thoughts." Thereupon, one person declared, "The truth is that the faith and worship in which I found my people involved gave me the certitude that this whole thing is false. Ibadah, or worship, should be for one Allah who is most exalted in His majesty and who has no partner or associate in the act of the creation of this universe." This broke the ice. Others were prompted to speak out, and they all declared that this was the thought, the belief that separated them from their people and brought them there. Now they were an ideologically unified group, enjoying mutual fellowship and friendship. They set up a separate house of worship for themselves where they would assemble and worship Allah, who is one, and who has no partner in His divinity. But by and by they became the talk of the town. Backbitters told on them before the king, who ordered that they all should be brought to him. When they came into the royal court, the king asked them about their belief and its mores. Allah gave them the courage to state their belief in the oneness of Allah. In fact, they invited the king himself to believe as they did. This is precisely what has been mentioned in the verses appearing next, and we made their hearts firm. And when they rose, they said, "Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth, and we shall never invoke any god other than Him, for then we would be saying something far from the truth. These are people of ours. They have taken to gods other than Him. Why do they not bring a proof in their favor? So, who is more unjust than the one who fabricates a lie against Allah? Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 14-15. When these young men acted bold before the king and invited him to believe, he turned the call down and threatened them with drastic action. He had the princely robes they donned on their bodies taken off in reprisal so that they may think and change their behavior. In order that they actually do so, he gave them respite for a few days, saying that they were young, therefore he did not wish to kill them right away. In fact, he wanted them to have the time to think over it. Then, if they reverted to the faith of their people, they will be allowed to live as usual, otherwise they would be killed. It must have been the mercy of Allah Ta'ala on His believing servants that this respite given to them opened an escape door for them. They ran from there and took refuge in a cave. Usual reports carried by commentators agree that these people were followers of the faith of Sayyidina Isa Masih. Ibn Kathir and most commentators have mentioned it. However, Ibn Kathir has not accepted it. According to him, had these people been the followers of the Christian faith, the Jews of Medina would have not suggested that a question be asked about them just because of their mutual hostility, and thus would have not given them that importance. But this is not a sufficient basis because of which all reports should be rejected. When the Jews of Medina proposed that such a question should be asked, they were simply looking at it as a unique event very similar to the question about Dhul-Qarnayn, which was also on that basis. That there was no Jewish-Christian prejudice involved in questions of this nature is fairly obvious here. In Tafsir Majari, based on a report from Ibn Ishaq, these people have been identified as monotheists who, after the decline of the original Christian faith, were among the rare remnants still adhering to the true faith of the Sayyidina Isa and to pure monotheism. In this report of Ibn Ishaq too, the name of the oppressive king has been given as Dakianus, while the city in which these young men lived before they went into hiding in the cave has been called Ephesus. Then the event has been described in the same manner in the report of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him as well, and the name of the king has been given as Dakianus. The report of Ibn Ishaq also adds that the name of the king of the people who were followers of the faith of Sayyidina Masih and had taken over the country at the time the Surah Al-Kahf woke up was Bayjasis. So at least the strong likelihood of the people of Kahf being committed to the true faith brought by Sayyidina Isa Masih stands proof from the reports as a whole, and that they belonged to the post-Masih period, and that the Mushrik king they ran from was called Dakianus. At the time they woke up after 309 years, the name of the righteous and believing king who ruled the country has been named as Bayjasis in the report of Ibn Ishaq. If this is seen in conjunction with the contemporary calendar, it is possible to determine their period, at the least as a matter of conjecture and approximation. Trying to determine it any more than that is needless, nor there exists the means to acquire this knowledge. Are the people of Kahf still alive? In this matter, the correct and obvious approach is that they have died. Tafsir Majari carries the detailed report of Ibn Ishaq. According to this report, when the people of Kahf woke up, their unique event became the talk of the town. They went to meet the king. When they took leave of King Bayjasis, they bid farewell to him and prayed for him. The king was still there when they went back to the place only to lie down where they had been lying for such a long time. And that was exactly when Allah Ta'ala sent death to them. At this stage, the following report from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, has been reproduced by Ibn Jarir, Ibn Kathir, and many more from among the commentators. Qatada says that Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, participated in a jihad in the company of Habib ibn Maslama when they passed by a cave in the Roman territory. There they saw bones in it. Then someone said, "These are the bones of the people of Kahf." Thereupon, Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "The bones of them have already become dust more than 300 years ago." Ibn Kathir. These were particular segments of the story that were neither described by the Quran, nor by the hadith of the Holy Prophet. In addition to that, neither does some specified purpose of this event or the understanding of any verse of the Quran depend on it, nor can any categorical decision be arrived at in these matters on the basis of historical reports. As far as the remaining segments of the story already described within the text of the Quran are concerned, their details appear under the commentary on relevant verses. Up to this point, the Quran had mentioned this story in brief. Details follow.
Then we awakened them, that we might show which of the two factions was most precise in calculating what extent they had remained in time.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 11, for the tafsir.
It is we who relate to you, O Muhammad, their story in truth. Indeed, they were youths who believed in their Lord, and we increased them in guidance.
Commentary. The word fitya in they were young men is the plural of fata, which means someone young. According to Tafsir scholars, this word indicates that the time ripe for correction of deeds and morals, and the inculcation of guidance and righteousness, is invariably the time when one is young. When old, formerly acquired deeds and morals become so deeply rooted that no matter how evident becomes the truth against these, it is very difficult to break loose from their shackles. Those among the noble companions who responded to and believed in the call of the Holy Prophet were, after all, mostly young people. Ibn Kathir, Abu Hayyan.
And we made firm their hearts when they stood up and said, Our Lord is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Never will we invoke besides him any deity. We would have certainly spoken then an excessive transgression.
The first sentence of verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 14, and we made their hearts firm, refers to the event described by Ibn Kathir a little earlier. This tells us that Allah made the hearts of these people firm when the king who was cruel and worshipped idols summoned them in his court and questioned them. This was a matter of life and death. But despite their apprehension for the worst, Allah Ta'ala made His love, awe and grandeur prevail over their hearts, which empowered them to face any eventuality of death or distress. The outcome was that they proclaimed their belief clearly and courageously, saying that they did not worship anyone or anything other than Allah, and would not do that in future as well. People who firmly resolve to do something for the sake of Allah, this is how they receive help from Allah Ta'ala.
These, our people, have taken besides him deities. Why do they not bring for worship of them a clear authority? And who is more unjust than one who invents about Allah a lie?
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 14, for the tafsir.
The youths said to one another, And when you have withdrawn from them and that which they worship other than Allah, retreat to the cave. Your Lord will spread out for you of His mercy and will prepare for you from your affair facility.
About the verse, then seek refuge in the cave. Ibn Kathir says that the course adopted by the people of Kahf was that they left the city in which it was not possible to worship Allah and took refuge in the cave. This is the sunnah, the way of all prophets. They migrate from such places and opt for a place where ibadah could be done.
And had you been present, you would see the sun when it rose, inclining away from their cave on the right, and when it set, passing away from them on the left, while they were laying within an open space thereof. That was from the signs of Allah. He whom Allah guides is the rightly guided, but he whom He leads astray, never will you find for him a protecting guide.
Commentary. In these verses, Allah Ta'ala has told us about three states of the people of Kahf. All three are indeed unique, and it was the karamah, a matter of wonder, that manifested itself in an extraordinary way around these people devoted to Allah. A thing of wonder that manifests itself at the hands of a prophet of Allah is called a mu'jiza or miracle, while if it appears at the hand of some other pious persons, it is called karamah. First of all, to be overtaken by continuous sleep for a long time and to stay alive in that state without eating and drinking is by itself a matter of wonder, and certainly contra-habitual and extraordinary. Its details will appear in the verses that follow. Given here is one state of their long sleep. That is, Allah Ta'ala had arranged for their protection in the cave in a way that the sun would pass by them morning and evening but would not shine over their bodies inside the cave. The advantages of the sunshine passing by them were things like the stabilization of the traces of life, moderation and balancing of the effects of wind, chill and heat, etc. And then, the sun not hitting their bodies directly may have also been a factor in keeping their bodies and dress protected. This arrangement of keeping them shielded from direct sunlight could also be conceived if the cave lies situated in a particular structural position, and the opening of its entrance happens to face south or north in a way that sunlight does not get in there naturally. Ibn Qutayba went to the trouble of making elaborate mathematical calculations to determine the peculiar location of this cave precisely in terms of latitude and longitude. Mashari, contrary to this, was the approach of Al-Zaddad, who said that the staying of sunshine away from them was not because of any inherent situation or formation of the cave. Instead, it was an extraordinary phenomenon manifested as a karamah. It seems when it was said, that is one of the signs of Allah, at the end of the verse, it was obviously there to prove that this arrangement of protection from the sun was not the outcome of any particular formation or location of the cave. Instead, it was a sign of the perfect power of Allah Ta'ala. Qatubai, to put it candidly, Allah Ta'ala had it all arranged for them that sunlight will not reach their bodies. It may have been caused through its particular formation or location, or through the barrier of a cloud or something similar. When the sun would start shining, or the very rays of the sun would be moved away from them in an extraordinary manner. All these probabilities exist within the verse. There is no need to insist upon fixing any of these as the absolute reality.
And you would think them awake while they were asleep, and we turned them to the right and to the left, while their dog stretched his forelegs at the entrance. If you had looked at them, you would have been turned from them in flight and been filled by them with terror.
The people of Kahf during their long sleep were in a state that an onlooker would have taken them to be awake. The second state of the people of Kahf pointed out is that there were no signs of sleep on their bodies, in spite of having been put to sleep for such a long period of time. In fact, they were in a condition that anyone who looked at them would think that they were awake. Generally, commentators say that their eyes were open. The body is relaxed in sleep, but this relaxation was not there. The change in the momentum of breathing that comes upon the sleeping was also not there. It is obvious that this state too was nothing short of being extraordinary. A kind of thaumaturgy, karama, in which the apparent consideration of wisdom was their protection lest someone taking them to be asleep attacks them or steals things with them. Then the changing of sides to the right and the left could also give an onlooker the realization of their being awake. And then there was a particular benefit as well in changing sides, in that the dust they were sleeping on does not eat into an unchanged side. The dog of the people of Kahf. At this point, we have a question on our hands. It appears in an authentic hadith that angels do not enter a house that has a dog or picture. Then, there is a hadith of the Sahih of al-Bukhari. There, it has been reported on the authority of Sayyidina Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, "Whoever keeps a dog, except the one used for hunting or guarding livestock, has 2 carats deducted every day from his reward." Karat or carrot is the name of a small weight, and in the report narrated by Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, there is the exception of a third kind of dog, that is, a dog kept to guard land produce. Based on these hadith reports, one can ask as to why did these worthy men of Allah take a dog with them. One answer to this could be that the prohibition of keeping a dog is an injunction of the Sharia brought by the Holy Prophet, and it is possible that it may not be so prohibited in the Sharia law brought by Sayyidina Isa Masih. Then, it is reasonably imaginable that these people who had property and livestock may have kept a dog for their protection from intruders, and since the faithfulness of a dog is well known, the dog followed them when they went out from the city. Good company is a blessing even for a dog. Ibn Adiyas says that his father told him that he heard a sermon of Abu al-Fat al-Jahari in the Hijra year 469 at the Great Mosque of Egypt. Speaking on the mimbar, he was telling everyone, "Whoever loves good people, he too gets a share from their goodness." See, when the dog of the Ashad al-Kahf loved them and followed them closely as if appended with them, Allah Ta'ala mentioned it in the Quran. Al-Qatubi mentions this report of Ibn Atiyah in his Tafsir. In his comments, he says when a dog can reach this station by being in the company of the righteous and the saintly, imagine how high the station of true believers and pure monotheists who love righteous men of Allah would be. In fact, there is comfort and good news in this event for Muslims who are weak in deeds but do love the Holy Prophet fully and duly. It has been reported in the Sahih of al-Bukhari that Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "One day, I and the Holy Prophet were coming out of the masjid. We met a person at the door. He asked, 'Ya Rasul-Allah, when will the Qiyamah come?' He said, 'What preparations have you already made for Qiyamah?' In view of which you wanted to come soon." Hearing this, the man was somewhat ashamed and corrected himself by saying, "I have not collected a lot of prayers, fasts and charities for Qiyamah, but I love Allah and His Messenger." He said, "If so, on the day of Qiyamah you shall be with those whom you love." Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, says, "When we heard this bliss of a sentence from the Holy Prophet, we were so happy that we had never been that happy since we embraced Islam." After that, Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "Alhamdulillah, I love Allah, His Messenger Abu Bakr and Umar, therefore I look forward to being with them." Qatubi, Allah Ta'ala had invested the people of Kahf with such awe as would make an onlooker run in terror. The address in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 18, if you had a look at them, is apparently to people at large. Therefore, it does not necessarily follow from it that the Holy Prophet too could be filled up with awe generated by the state of the people of Kahf in their cave. So, the address here is to common people. they are being told that, were they to cast a look at them in that state, they would have fled away from them in terror, and the resulting awe of them would have gripped them all over. What was the basis of this awe, and what were the reasons for it? This is something in which debate is useless, therefore the Qur'an and Hadith have not explained it. The truth of the matter is that Allah Ta'ala, in His wisdom, had created such conditions for their protection that the sun stays away from their bodies, and the onlooker takes them to be awake and is filled with awe of them and is consequently unable to see them fully. It is possible to have these conditions prevail by way of particular physical causes as well as by way of an extraordinary input or as the working of wonder. Karma, now, when the Qur'an and Hadith have not determined any particular reason for it, debating it with hollow conjectures is futile. Preferring this approach, Tafsir of Maarif cites Ibn Abi Shayba, Ibn al-Mundhir, and Ibn Abi Haytham in support. They have reported an event relating to Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, who says, "We waged a jihad against Byzantine forces in the company of Sayyidina Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, which is known as the Battle of Al-Madik. On this trip, we passed through this site of the cave of the people of Kahf. The Qur'an mentions it. Say, Sayyidina Muawiyah wanted to go into the cave and see the bodies of the people of Kahf. Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said, let us not do so because Allah Ta'ala has already prohibited someone better than you from seeing them, that is, the Rasul of Allah. Then he recited this very verse, if you had a look at them, you would have fled from them and would have been filled with awe of them. This tells us that, in the sight of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, the address in, if you had a look, was to the Holy Prophet, but Sayyidina Muawiyah, may Allah be pleased with him, did not accept his opinion perhaps, because he may have taken the address as being to common people and not to the Holy Prophet. Or it may be that the Qur'an has portrayed the condition of the time when the people of Kahf were alive and asleep. Now a long time had passed since they died. It was not likely that they would still have the same atmosphere of awe around them. However, Sayyidina Muawiyah, with his position unchanged, sent a few men to find out the facts. But when they stepped into the cave, Allah Ta'ala sent a hot wind upon them, because of which they could not see anything. Majari, this report was also referred earlier under the people of Kahf, place and period.
And similarly, we awakened them that they might question one another. Said a speaker from among them, how long have you remained here? They said, we have remained a day or part of a day. They said, your Lord is most knowing of how long you remained. So send one of you with this silver coin of yours to the city, and let him look to which is the best of food, and bring you provision from it, and let him be cautious. And let no one be aware of you.
Commentary. The word kadhalik in the first sentence is for comparison. The purpose at this place is to describe the mutual likeness of two events. One of these is the event of the long sleep of the people of Kahf for an equally long period of time mentioned in the beginning of the story under the verse. So, we veil their hearing, putting them to sleep in the cave for a number of years. Surah Al-Kahf. Ayat 11. The second event relates to the rising of these people from that long-drawn sleep intact, healthy and fit despite the absence of any energy, giving intake and becoming wide awake. Both are alike in being signs of the power of Allah Ta'ala. For this reason, when raising them up was mentioned in this verse, the word kadhalik, and similarly was used to indicate that the way their sleep was not like the habitual sleep of common people. Very similarly, their rising too is distinct from natural habit. Then, as for the next statement after that, meaning so that they ask each other as to how long the sleep was, it is not the reason of raising them up. Instead, it is a mention of the usual phenomenon. Therefore, the particle lam in liatas alu, so that they ask, has been identified as the lam of akiba, consequence, or sarah, result, meaning that which naturally follows as a sequel. Abu Hayyan al-Qutubite, in short, their long sleep was a divine sign. Similarly, sitting up all awake after hundreds of years fit and healthy without usual nourishment was also another perfect divine sign. And it was also divinely intended that they too should come to know that they have been sleeping through hundreds of years. Therefore, it began with questions asked between each other and ended at the incident mentioned in the next verse. And in this way we made them known. It means that the people of the city knew their secret, and despite the difference in determining the period of their stay, everyone believed that they had been sleeping in the cave for a long period of time. Given in, one of them said, is the detail of what was said briefly at the beginning of the story, that they differed about the period of their stay in the cave, and that one of them did say the right thing. According to this detail, one person from among the people of the cave ventured to pose the question as to how long did they sleep. Then came the response from some that said, a day, or part of a day, because these people had entered the cave in the morning, and when they woke up it was evening. Therefore they thought that was the day they had entered the cave, and the duration of their sleep was just about a day. But some from among these very people realized that, perhaps, this was not the day they had entered the cave. If so, who knows how many days have gone by? Therefore they decided to let this particular knowledge about the event rest with Allah. By saying, your Lord knows best how long you stayed, they dismissed this debate as unnecessary and turned their attention to the need of the hour, that is, to send a man to the city to bring some food from there. The word al-Madinah in the phrase ila al-Madinah, to the city, proves at least this much, that there used to be a big city close to the cave where they had stayed. In his Tafsir al-Bar al-Muhit, Abu Hayyan has said that the name of the city at the time the people of Kahf left was Ipsus, and now the name was Tarsus. Al-Qurtubi has said in his Tafsir that during the time idol worship and ignorance prevailed in this city, its name was Ipsus. But when the believers of that time, that is, the followers of Sayyidina Masih, overtook it, they renamed it as Tarsus. The word with this silver coin of yours, Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 19, tells us that these good men had also brought some money with them when they came to the cave. From here we know that the procurement and management of essential expenditures in life is not contrary to the norms of zuhd, abstention from worldly desires, and tawakkul, trust in Allah. Al-Bar al-Muhit, the word aska, in, which are the purest, means what is clean and pure. According to the Tafsir of Ibn Jubayr, it denotes halal food. They were alert to the need for such precaution because at the time they had left the city, people used to slaughter animals in the name of idols, and that was what they sold in the market. Therefore, they stress upon the man going out to bring food only after making sure that it was halal. Ruling. This tells us that eating food in any city, bazaar or hotel, where most of the food available is haram, is not permissible without prior investigation.
Indeed, if they come to know of you, they will stone you or return you to their religion, and never would you succeed then, ever.
The word rajim, hin, means they will stone you to death. It will be recalled that the king had warned them before they went to the cave that they will be killed if they kept adhering to their present faith. This verse tells us that a renegade in their faith used to be punished by being stoned to death, in which everyone participated, expressed collective anger, and lent a hand in killing him. Perhaps the punishment for adultery committed by a married man or woman by stoning to death, as proposed in the Sharia of Islam, may be aimed at exposing the one guilty of this abominable act at the cost of all norms of modesty and propriety. The execution of the culprit was to remain public, with everyone joining in, so that two things were ensured: let the disgrace be at collective level, and let all Muslims express their wrath practically, so that no one dares repeat this act of shame among them. The expression, so send one of you, tells us that the group in the cave picked up a man from among them to go to the city and gave him the money to buy food which he would bring back. Al-Qurtubi finds this significant. He quotes Ibn Qaway's mandad and describes some rulings deduced from here. Rulings. Partnership in capital is permissible because this amount was shared by all. Power of attorney or delegation of management is permissible in capital. That is, one person can, as an authorized agent, disperse from shared capital with the permission of others. If a group of people shares food, it is permissible, though individual food intake usually differs, with one eating less while the other more.
And similarly, we caused them to be found, that they who found them would know that the promise of Allah is truth, and that of the hour there is no doubt. That was when they disputed among themselves about their affair, and then said, construct over them a structure, their Lord is most knowing about them. Said those who prevailed in the matter, we will surely take for ourselves over them a masjid.
Commentary. Described in this verse, which opens with the words, and in this way we made them known, is the disclosure of the secret of the people of Kahf before the residents of the city. Along with it given there is a view of his wisdom, and of the belief in the hereafter and the last day when the dead will rise again, and that they will ultimately believe in it. How this came about has been mentioned briefly in Tafsir al-Qur'an by as follows: the secret of the people of Kahf. How did the people of the city learn about it? When the people of Kahf went out, the Mushrik king Dekianus, the oppressive ruler of that city, died. Centuries went by. Then it was taken over by people who were pure monotheists. Their king was a righteous man, whose name has been given as Bajises and Tafsir Majari with references to historical narratives. During his time, It so happened that differences became rampant on the issue of the dead rising again on the day of Qiyamah. One sect rejected the possibility of human bodies rising again after the process of decomposition, disintegration, and dispersal as scattered particles all over the world. Ajaces, the king of the time, started worrying about ways to dispel these doubts. When nothing worked, he got into ragged clothes, sat down on a heap of ash and prayed to Allah. Lamenting and pleading earnestly, he said, "O Allah, now it is up to thee to make things work out in a way that the belief of my people gets corrected and they take to the right path." On one side was this king engaged in his plaint and prayer, while, on the other side, Allah Ta'ala arranged to have his supplication answered in his own way. The people of Qaf woke up. They sent one of their men, reportedly named Tamlika, to the city bazaar to buy food. He went to a shop and paid for the food he bought in the form of a silver coin dating back to the time of King Dekinus, who reigned there 300 years ago. The shopkeeper was taken aback. Where did this coin come from? What period does it belong to? He was confused. He showed it to other shopkeepers. Everyone said that the man had struck some treasure and was there with a coin from it. This man told them that nothing of that kind had happened to him and the coin was his own. The shopkeepers detained him and produced him before the king. As said earlier, this king was a righteous man of Allah. It is said that he was aware of the old state treasure house, and in its archaeological section, he had also seen the tablet inscribed on which there was a list of the names of the people of Qaf along with the description of the incident of their escape. According to some, the cruel King Dakianus was the one who had ordered that such a tablet should be inscribed to declare them as proclaimed defenders, to preserve their names and addresses, and to have them arrested on sight. Some other reports say that there were people in the royal court who disapproved of idol worship by heart and took the people of Qaf as votaries of truth, but they did not have the courage to declare it openly. What they did was to have this tablet inscribed to be kept as memorabilia. The name of this tablet was Rakim, because of which the people of Qaf were also called the people of Rakim. So, this king knew something about this event, and at that time, he was busy praying to Allah that he would somehow make his people believe that making dead bodies rise again was not beyond his most perfect power. Therefore, when he inquired into the background of Tamlika, he was convinced that the man was one of the people of Qaf. He said that he used to pray to Allah in the hope that he would somehow make him fortunate enough to meet the people who had run away from Dakianus for the sake of their faith. Now that Allah had perhaps heard his prayer, he was grateful. Maybe there is in this event some decisive proof that makes people believe in the rising of the dead. After saying this, he asked this man to take him to the cave from where he had come. The king arrived there with a retinue of people from the city. When the cave came close, Tamlika asked the king to wait there for a while, so that he could go in and inform his companions about the situation. He would tell them that the king was there to meet them along with his people, and that the king was a believer, a monotheist, and so were his people. If he failed to do that, and the king appeared there unannounced, it was likely that they might take him to be their enemy like the previous one. When Tamlika went in the cave, he related the whole story before his companions. They were pleased. They greeted the king, showing due respect for him. Then they returned to their cave, and as most narratives have it, when Tamlika related the whole story before his companions, they died and could not meet the king. At this stage, Abu Hayyan has reported and narrated in Al-Bar al-Muhit, which says that after the meeting, the people of the cave took leave of the king and the visiting citizens and went into the cave. It was at that time that Allah Ta'ala sent death to them. Allah knows best the reality as it is. However, the people of the city now had before them a marvel of divine power manifested so decisively and clearly. They came to believe in the working of that power. They saw living human beings kept alive for 300 years without food and things essential in life. And then they also saw them raised intact, healthy and fit after having been kept asleep for such a long time. With all this in view, why should it be at all difficult for that power to make these bodies come alive after having met their death? Through this event, their perception that the resurrection of bodies was a far-out proposition stood refuted. They now realized that taking the power of the Master of the universes, on the analogy of the power of human beings, was an act of ignorance by itself. A hint was made towards this very aspect in the words, so that they realize that Allah's promise is true and that there is no doubt about the hour. It means Allah raised the people of Qaf after having kept them asleep for a long time, so that others realized that his promise to raise the dead on the last day of Qiyamah was true, and that there was no doubt about the coming of the Qiyamah. People differed after the death of Surah Al-Kahf. As for the holiness of the people of Qaf, Everyone agreed about that and thought of making a memorial for them close to the cave. However, there was a difference of opinion on the nature of the building. Some reports tell us that idol worshippers, still left in the city, also used to visit the site. They propose that it should be a public welfare building, but the king and the official in his government were believers who played a dominant role in public affairs. They proposed that they should make a mosque over there so that it serves as a memorial to them and also becomes the cause of saving people from idol worship in the future. At this place in the Quran, the reference to this difference of opinion is hemmed in by the sentence, "Their Lord knows them best." Regarding the meaning of this sentence, Tafsir al-Muhit has mentioned two probabilities. This was said by the same people from the city present there, because when a memorial was proposed after their death, people thought of inscribing a tablet mentioning the names and the details about the people of the cave for the memory of whom the building was to be dedicated. And so they started talking variously about the background details concerning the people of Kahf. In the end, when their differences remained unresolved, they said, "Their Lord knows them best." After saying that, they turned to the main job at hand, which was raising a building in their memory. Those who were dominant decided to make a mosque. Then, the probability that this was said by Allah Ta'ala also exists here, as it warns people who indulged in mutual disputations around baseless issues during that time. They are being told here that they do not know the reality, and they do not have the sources to arrive at that knowledge. Why, then, would they waste their precious time in futile argumentation? Then, it is also possible that the warning was beamed at Jews and others who used the crutch of this event to indulge in baseless debates during the blessed time of the Holy Prophet. Pure and high is Allah, who knows best. Ruling. This event tells us that making a masjid for salat near the graves of men of Allah is no sin. As for the hadith in which words of curse have appeared against those who make the graves of prophets a masjid, it means making the graves of such a place of sajda or prostration which is, by consensus, shirk and haram. Majari.
They will say there were 3, the 4th of them being their dog. And they will say there were 5, the 6th of them being their dog, guessing at the unseen. And they will say there were 7, and the 8th of them was their dog. Say, O Muhammad, my Lord is most knowing of their number. None knows them except a few. So do not argue about them except with an obvious argument, and do not inquire about them among the spectators from anyone.
Commentary. The verse opens with the word Sayaqulan. Some will say, who are these people who will say? There are two probabilities therein. It could be the people who had differed among themselves during the time of the people of Kahf about their name and lineage, already mentioned in the previous verse. Out of these very people, some had made the first statement, some others, the second, and still others, the third. Mentioned in al-Mu'id from al-Mawardi, the second probability is that the pronoun in Sayaqulan could be reverting back to the Christians of Najran who had argued with the Holy Prophet about the number of the people of Kahf. They had 3 sects among them. One sect was called Malkaniya. They made the first statement about the number, that is, gave the number as 3. The second sect was Yaqubiya. They went by the second statement, that is, they were 5. The third sect was Nasturiya. They made the third statement, saying that they were 7. However, some said that this third statement was that of Muslims. What finally happened was that the third statement turned out to be true, as it appears from a hint given by the Quran and the word of the Holy Prophet. al-Mu'id. The hint is that the former 2 views about their number have been termed by the Quran as conjectures, while the third view has appeared without such a comment. Muhammad Taqi Mani, the use of the conjunction wa and in wa thamanuam, and the 8th of them is worth noticing here. At this place, 3 statements have been reported about the number of the people of Kahf: 3, 5, and 7, and after each their dog has been counted. But no conjunction wa has been introduced in between their number and the count of the dog in the first 2 statements. The sentence 3, the 4th of them being their dog, and the sentence 5, the 6th of them being their dog, appear without that conjunction wa. But the arrangement is different in the third statement. Here, the word 7 is followed by a connective wa attached to the text of, and the 8th of them is their dog. Giving its reason, commentators say that early Arabs used to count up to 7 digits, after which the number that followed was counted as separate, similar to its present counterpart, the number where units end and the tens begin. Therefore, while counting from 3 to 7, they would not use the connective to give a number after 7. They would state it separately with the help of a connective wa, and for this reason, this wa, and was called the wa, and of Thaman, 8, Majari, and others, the names of the people of Qaf. The fact of the matter is that the names of the people of Qaf do not stand proved authentically from any Sahih hadith. Names given in exegetical and historical reports differ. The closest out of these is the report given on the authority of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, by Al-Tabarani and Al-Mujam al-As, with sound chains of narrators. The names given there are Muqsalmina, Tamlika, Martunis, Sanunis, Sarnunisi, Thuhuniwas, Castatunis. Basic rule in debatable matters: avoid long, drawn argumentation, referring to the animated efforts to determine the number of the people of Qaf. And other matters, the text says, so do not argue about them except with an apparent argumentation, and do not ask any one of these about them. The rule of conduct, a golden legacy of the Quran, taught in these two sentences to the Holy Prophet, are in fact significant guiding principles for the learned among the Muslim community. The thing to do when difference arises on any issue is to state what is necessary clearly. If people, even after that, elect to pursue a course of unnecessary debate, one should offer cursory comments in the light of the earlier presentation and conclude the debate. Any effort to dig deeper to affirm one's claim or to make the extra effort to refute the assertion of debaters should be avoided, for nothing good would really come out of it. Moreover, any further prolongation of the debate and altercation would result in uncalled for waste of time, as well as pose the danger of mutual bickering. The second line of guidance given in the other sentence is that the optimum information given to him through divine revelation about the people of Qaf should be taken as perfectly sufficient and satisfactory for all practical purposes. Let him not worry about finding more and asking others. As for asking others, it could have another aspect too. Maybe the question asked is to expose their ignorance or to disgrace them. This too would be contrary to the high morals prophets have. Therefore, restraint was placed on asking both kinds of questions, either for additional investigation or to prove the addressee ignorant and disgrace him.
And never say of anything, "Indeed, I will do that tomorrow."
Commentary. The story of Surah Al-Kahf is due to end on the 4 verses cited above. In the first 2 of these, the Holy Prophet and his Ummah has been taught to say Inshallah Ta'ala along with the promise or affirmation of doing something in the future. Because, who knows if one does or does not live, and even if one does, will one be able to do or not to do that? Therefore, the believer should be confident about it in his or her heart, and confess to it verbally as well, that in the event of making a commitment to do something next day, what will be said will be, if Allah Ta'ala wills, I shall do this thing tomorrow. This is what the saying of Inshallah means. In the 3rd verse, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 25, a decision has been given on a controversy. This was a debate in which people had held different opinions during the time of the people of Qaf, and equally different were the sayings of the Jews and Christians of the contemporary period about it, that is, the period of time they kept sleeping in the cave. It was stated in the verse that those were 309 years. This is, so to say, a clarification of the statement made briefly at the beginning of the story, so we veiled their hearing, putting them to sleep in the cave for a number of years. After that, those who still differ with it have been warned once again that they are not the ones who know the reality of things as they are. The one who knows it all is none else but Allah, with whom rests the knowledge of all that is unseen in the heavens and the earth. He is all hearing. He is all seeing. The time duration of 309 years given by him should be enough for their satisfaction.
Except when adding, "if Allah wills." And remember your Lord when you forget it, and say, "Perhaps my Lord will guide me to what is nearer than this to right conduct."
Saying Inshallah on doing something in the future. The background of the revelation of the first 2 verses has been reported in Lubab from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, in the following manner. When the people of Makkah, acting as coached by the Jews, asked the Holy Prophet about the story of Surah Al-Kahf, etc., he promised to answer the next day without having said Inshallah. The least shortcoming issuing forth from the close ones brings some or the other notice of caution. Therefore, no revelation came for the next 15 days. Naturally, the Holy Prophet was grieved, and the mushriks of Makkah had their opportunity to laugh and ridicule. After this interval of 15 days, when the answer to the questions asked was revealed, these 2 verses were revealed along with it as a measure of guidance. They told him that, should he need to say something about what he was going to do the next day, he should invariably affirm it by saying Inshallah, for everything depends on the intention and will of Allah Ta'ala. These 2 verses, it will be noted, have been introduced at the end of the story of the people of Qaf. Ruling. Firstly, These two verses, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 23 to 24, tell us that saying inshallah in a given situation is mustahab, recommended. Secondly, they tell us that, should this part of the statement be left unsaid inadvertently, then one may say it at the time one remembers. This injunction relates to the particular matter for which these verses have been revealed. It means that the purpose is simply to say this word to invoke divine blessing and to confess to one's servitude, and not to make the statement contingent or conditional. Therefore, it does not follow from here that one would do the same in buying and selling transactions and contracts where conditions are imposed and on this rests the contract between parties. Is it possible to impose a condition whenever one remembers later in case one had forgotten to include the condition at the time of signing the original contract? The difference of some jurists exists in this issue, details of which appear in books of fiqh.
And they remained in their cave for 300 years and exceeded by 9.
As for the period of sleep in the cave given as 309 years in the third verse, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 27, this statement concerning the time duration, as evident from the sequential arrangement of the Qur'an, is but from Allah Ta'ala. Ibn Kathir has declared this to be the position of the majority of commentators, earlier and later. Abu Hayyan and Al-Qutub have also adopted this view, but they have also reported another saying from Qatada and others. It holds that this statement of 309 years is also the saying of some of those who had differed, and that the saying of Allah was what was said later. Allah knows best how long they stayed. The reason is, had the earlier statement giving the duration as 309 years been the word of Allah, there would have been no occasion for saying Allah knows best how long they stayed after that. But the majority of commentators have said that both these sentences are the word of Allah. The first one describes reality as it is. The second one warns those who differ with it. They have been told that once the statement giving the duration has come from Allah, accepting it is mandatory, since He is the one who really knows. Trying to differ with Him on the basis of mere conjectures and opinions is, to make an understatement, unreasonable. The question that arises here is about the manner in which the Holy Qur'an has described the duration of stay. First it mentions 300 years. After that, it is said that added to those 300 there are 9. The number 309 was not given initially. According to commentators, there is a reason for it. Since the Jews and Christians followed the solar calendar, their count remained 300 years. And since Islam goes by the lunar calendar in which 3 more years are added every 100 years, therefore, 300 years of solar calendar become 9 more years in accordance with the lunar calendar. It was to tell the difference between the 2 years that this expressive diction was employed.
Say, Allah is most knowing of how long they remained. He has knowledge of the unseen aspects of the heavens and the earth. How seeing is He, and how hearing. They have not besides Him any protector, and He shares not His legislation with anyone.
Yet another question arises here about the people of Kahf. During their time, and then within the blessed period of the Holy Prophet, the Jews and Christians had their differences about 2 things: the number of the people of Kahf and the duration of their sleep in the cave. The Qur'an does describe both. However, it has done so with a difference. The number was not mentioned explicitly. Rather, only a hint has been given by not refuting the view which was correct. But the fixed duration was declared in very clear words, and they stayed in their cave for 300 years and added 9. The reason is that this very remarkable diction of the Qur'an strongly suggests that this debate on the number of the people of Kahf is virtually useless. No worldly or religious issue relates to or depends on it. Yes, this unusual sleep for such a long period of time, being healthy and fit without food and drink, and then sitting up in good shape after such a long time is certainly a working model of resurrection. That there is a day of judgment and that there is a hereafter can be argued on this basis. Therefore, the period of sleep was stated very clearly. People who deny the extraordinary miracles, or people who are in the habit of explaining them away overwrought by the objections of modern-day Jewish and Christian Orientalists, have not spared even the Qur'an. For example, in the case of this verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 25, they have tried to use the explanation of Qatada as a prop to reject the duration of 309 years as the saying of those very people who were differing among themselves. But they have erred. The statement for a number of years, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 11, which appears in an earlier sentence of the Qur'an, cannot be called the saying of anyone other than Allah Ta'ala. To prove the miraculous nature of the event, even this much is sufficient, that someone remains asleep for years and years and then rises and sits up all intact, fit and alive. Allah knows best.
And recite, O Muhammad, what has been revealed to you of the book of your Lord. There is no changer of His words, and never will you find in other than Him a refuge.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 26 for the Tafsir.
And keep yourself patient by being with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and the evening, seeking His countenance. And let not your eyes pass beyond them, desiring adornments of the worldly life, and do not obey one whose heart we have made heedless of our remembrance, and who follows his desire, and whose affair is ever in neglect.
Commentary. Dawah and Tabligh admit of no discrimination. Some events have been mentioned in the background of the revelation of the verse, and keep yourself content. It is possible that all of them became the cause of this instruction. Al-Bayhaqi reports that Ayyana ibn Hisa al-Azari, the chief of Makkah, paid a visit to the Holy Prophet. Sitting there with him was Sayyid ibn Salman al-Farisi, may Allah be pleased with him, who was one of the poor Sahaba. His dress was tattered and his looks that of a dervish. Then there were some other poor and humble people like him sitting within the gathering. Ayyana said, "These are the people who stop us from coming to you and listening to you. We cannot sit with such broken down people. You should remove them from your gathering, or you should, at the least, have one separate gathering for us and another for them." Ibn Marjawayh reports on the authority of Sayyid Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that Umayyad ibn Khalaf al-Jama' he advised the Holy Prophet that he should not have poor and broken down Muslims as those close to him. Instead of that, he should prefer to have the chiefs of Makkah and the Quraysh tried with him. If these people embrace the religion brought by him, it will advance the cause of religion. Pursuant to events of this nature, came the divine instruction that firmly stopped him from accepting their advice. Not only that he should not remove them from his company. In fact, the command given reads, Wasbir nafsak, translated as in keep yourself content. If translated literally, it could mean keep yourself tied with them, not in the sense of not leaving them at any time, but meaning that he should attend to and relate to these very people, seeking their advice in essential matters and working in association with them alone. Why should he do that, and what was the wisdom behind it? The words that follow spell the reason out. They call their Lord morning and evening, remembering him under all conditions. And what they do is exclusively for the good pleasure of Allah. All these conditions around them are conditions that attract the help and support of Allah Ta'ala. And such are the people to whom comes the help of Allah. So let them not worry about the loss of worldly support, for the final victory shall be theirs. The reason why he was prevented from accepting the advice of the Quraysh chiefs has been given towards the end of the verse. It was said that their hearts were heedless of the remembrance of Allah. Everything they did was subservient to their physical desires, and these conditions guarantee that they would stand alienated far from the mercy and support of Allah Ta'ala.
And say, the truth is from your Lord, so whoever wills, let him believe, and whoever wills, let him disbelieve. Indeed, we have prepared for the wrongdoers a fire whose walls will surround them, and if they call for relief, they will be relieved with water like murky oil, which scalds their faces. Wretched is the drink, and evil is the resting place.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 28, for the Tafsir.
Indeed, those who have believed and done righteous deeds, indeed, we will not allow to be lost the reward of any who did well in deeds.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 28, for the Tafsir.
Those will have gardens of perpetual residence, beneath them rivers will flow. They will be adorned therein with bracelets of gold, and will wear green garments of fine silk and brocade, reclining therein on adorned couches. Excellent is the reward, and good is the resting place.
At this point, someone may doubt that this advice was reasonably practicable. A separate gathering for them would have not hurt. In fact, it would have made it easier to convey the message of Islam to them, and equally easier for them to accept it. But the creation of such a division would have amounted to seating the rebellious rich on a pedestal of honor, an action that could have broken the hearts of poor Muslims or dampened their courage. Allah Ta'ala, in His ultimate wisdom, would not put up with anything like this. Instead of that, the ground rule of Dawah and Tabligh given by Him was that there should be no discrimination or distinction against or for anyone in it. Allah knows best. Ornaments for the people of Jannah. It has been mentioned in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 31, they will be adorned therein. The men inmates of Jannah will also be adorned with bracelets of gold. The question it may bring up is that wearing ornaments is neither becoming for men nor can these be called beauty and embellishment in any relative sense. If bracelets were put on them in Jannah, maybe they make them look awful. The answer is that embellishment and beauty are subservient to practice or custom as recognized in a society. What is considered to be embellishment and beauty in one country or region could more than often be detested in other countries and regions. And this could be the other way round as well. Similarly, something is taken to be an embellishment in a given period of time. Comes another time and it becomes a blemish, when ornaments and silk dresses will come to be established as embellishment and beauty for men of Jannah too. No one is going to feel strange with it there. That which puts restraints on us here is a law of this world, which stipulates that it is not permissible for men to wear any ornament of gold, even a ring or chain for watch made of gold. Similarly, silk clothes are not permissible for men. This will not be the law of Jannah. That is a universe of existence, separate from this entire universe of our experience. It cannot be imagined on the analogy of anything in and around us on this basis alone.
And present to them an example of two men. We granted to one of them 2 gardens of grapevines, and we bordered them with palm trees, and placed between them fields of crops.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 31, for the Tafsir.
Each of the 2 gardens produced its fruit, and did not fall short thereof in anything, and we caused to gush forth within them a river.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 31, for the Tafsir.
And he had fruit, so he said to his companion while he was conversing with him, I am greater than you in wealth, and mightier in numbers of men.
Commentary. The word, and he had wealth, means the fruit of trees, as well as wealth, in an absolute sense. At this place, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, Mujahid and Qatada have taken it in the later sense. Ibn Kathir, according to the lexicon Al-Kemas, this word is used to denote the fruit of the tree and wealth of all kinds. This tells us that not only did he own gardens and farms, he also had gold, silver, and other luxuries. Even his words reported by the Quran, I am greater than you in wealth, also express the same sense. Ibn Kathir, about this statement, everything is as Allah wills. There is no power except with Allah. It has been reported in Shahid al-Aman on the authority of Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, whoever sees something, likes it, and says Mash Allahu la quwwata illa billah, nothing will harm it, that is, what he likes will stay protected, and it appears in other reports, whoever recites this kalima when he likes something he sees, it will stay protected against the evil eye. The gist of the arguments of these 2 persons is explained by Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanali, may Allah have mercy on him, in Khilasi Tafsir. These verses have described the event of 2 persons, one of whom had a lot of wealth, and, proud of it, he refused to accept that there is any life after death, and if there is one, he claimed, he will be given more wealth and reward therein. His argument was that if Allah was not pleased with him, he would not have this amount of wealth in this world. The other person, though less than him in wealth, was a true believer. He refuted the argument of the former one by saying that the worldly wealth is not a sign of one's being close to Allah, because the worldly benefits are given by Allah, in one way or the other, even to the disbelievers and sinful persons, rather to the snakes, scorpions, and beasts. It is a horrible mistake to presume that they are the signs of one's being approved by Allah. Therefore, neither your wealth is the proof of your behavior being approved by Allah, nor my lesser wealth is a proof of disapproval by Him. Allah's approval or disapproval depends on one's faith and deeds alone, and not on the amount of wealth one has.
And he entered his garden while he was unjust to himself. He said, I do not think that this will perish ever.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 34 for the Tafsir.
And I do not think the hour will occur. And even if I should be brought back to my Lord, I will surely find better than this as a return.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 34 for the Tafsir.
His companion said to him while he was conversing with him, Have you disbelieved in He who created you from dust and then from a sperm drop and then proportioned you as a man?
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 34 for the Tafsir.
But as for me, He is Allah, my Lord, and I do not associate with my Lord anyone.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 34 for the Tafsir.
And why did you, when you entered your garden, not say, What Allah willed has occurred, there is no power except in Allah, although you see me less than you in wealth and children.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 34 for the Tafsir.
It may be that my Lord will give me something better than your garden, and will send upon it a calamity from the sky, and it will become a smooth, dusty ground.
The word hasbana in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 has been explained by Qatada as punishment in an absolute sense by Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, as fire, and by some as stoning. As for what appears after that in the Quran, and its produce was struck by destruction from all sides, it obviously means that some major calamity hit his gardens, wealth and things of luxury reducing everything to ruins. The Quran does not mention any particular calamity explicitly. It appears that some fire came down from the skies and burnt the whole thing, as it appears in the Tafsir of Husband by Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, who has explained it as fire, and Allah knows best.
Or its water will become sunken into the earth, so you would never be able to seek it.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 for the Tafsir.
And his fruits were encompassed by ruin, so he began to turn his hands about in dismay over what he had spent on it, while it had collapsed on its trellises, and said, "Oh, I wish I had not associated with my Lord anyone."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 for the Tafsir.
And there was for him no company to aid him other than Allah, nor could he defend himself.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 for the Tafsir.
There the authority is completely for Allah, the truth. He is best in reward and best in outcome.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 for the Tafsir.
And present to them the example of the life of this world, its being like rain which we send down from the sky, and the vegetation of the earth mingles with it, and then it becomes dry rembrance scattered by the winds. And Allah is ever, over all things, perfect in ability.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 40 for the Tafsir.
Wealth and children are but adornment of the worldly life, but the enduring good deeds are better to your Lord for reward and better for one's hope.
Commentary. The meaning of everlasting virtues. Al-Baqiyat al-Salilhat, the Musnad of Oman, Ibn Hibban and Hakim have reported on the authority of Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, "Accumulate everlasting virtues as much as you can." It was said, "What are they?" He said, saying, "Pure is Allah. There is no God but Allah. All praise belongs to Allah. Allah is great, and there is no power and no strength except with Allah." Hakim has called this hadith Sahih. And Al-Ukaili reports on the authority of Sayyidina Nu'man ibn Bashir, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, "Pure is Allah, and all praise belongs to Allah. And there is no God but Allah, and Allah is great. These are the everlasting virtues." The same has been reported by Al-Tabarani from Sayyidina Sa'd ibn Ubadah, may Allah be pleased with him. And the Sahih of Muslim and Tirmidhi have reported on the authority of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, "I like saying, pure is Allah, and all praise belongs to Allah, and there is no God but Allah, and Allah is great, better than everything under the sun." Sayyidina Jabir, may Allah be pleased with him, said, "Recite, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, there is no power and there is no strength except with Allah." A lot, because it removes 99 types of ailments, out of which anxiety is the least painful. Thus, according to the Tafsir of Everlasting Virtues in this verse by Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, Ikrimah and Mujahid, it means the very recitation of these words. And said Ibn Jubair, Mesrach and Ibrahim said that everlasting virtues denote 5 daily prayers. And there is another report from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, which says that al-Baqiyat al-Salihat, or everlasting virtues in this verse, means righteous deeds in a general sense. Included therein are the words mentioned above, and the 5 prayers and all other righteous deeds as well. This explanation has also been reported from early commentator Qatada. Mawshari, this also happens to be the drive of the meaning in terms of the words of the Quran, for these words literally convey the sense of the righteous deeds that are to keep surviving. And it is obvious that all deeds that qualify as righteous and sincere are abiding and everlasting in the sight of Allah. Ibn Jarir and Al-Qurtubi have preferred this particular tafsir. Say, Inna Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, said, cultivation is of two kinds. Wealth and children are the cash crops of the mortal world, while everlasting virtues are the deferred crops of the hereafter. Hassan al-Basri, may Allah have mercy on him, said, everlasting virtues are one's intention, as the acceptance of righteous deeds depends on it. Ubayd ibn Umayr, may Allah be pleased with him, said, everlasting virtues are righteous daughters, for they are, for their parents, the greatest treasure troves of reward from Allah. This is supported by a narration of Sayyidah Aisha, may Allah be pleased with him, according to which the Holy Prophet has been reported to have said, I saw a man from my under orders to be taken to hell. Thereupon his righteous daughters clung to him and started wailing and crying and plaintively supplicating, O Allah, spare him, for he was very kind to us in the mortal world, and he worked very hard to raise us in our family. Allah Ta'ala in his mercy forgave him. Qutubah.
And warn of the day when we will remove the mountains, and you will see the earth prominent, and we will gather them and not leave behind from them anyone.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 46 for the Tafsir.
And they will be presented before your Lord in rows, and he will say, you have certainly come to us just as we created you the first time, but you claimed that we would never make for you an appointment.
Visualize the day of resurrection. The address to everyone on that fateful day of Qiyamah shall be, Lo, you have come to us empty-handed, without any of those things you proudly possessed, just as we had created you at first. Al-Bukhari, Muslim intermid, he report on the authority of Say, Ibn Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet once gave a khutbah in which he said, O people, on the day of Qiyamah you will come walking barefooted, bare-bodied, before your Lord, and the one to be donned with a dress first shall be Ibrahim, peace be on him. Hearing this, Sayyidah Aisha, may Allah be pleased with him, asked, Ya Rasulallah, is it that all men and women shall be naked and seeing each other? He said, that day, everyone will be gripped by such preoccupation and anxiety that no one will have any occasion to cast a look towards anyone, all eyes shall be raised upwards. According to Al-Qurtubi, the statement appearing in a hadith that the dead will meet each other in barzakh dressed in their shrouds is not contradictory of this hadith, because that is the case of brave in barzakh, post-death pre-resurrection state, while the present one concerns the plains of resurrection. And there are some hadith reports to the effect that the deceased person will rise on the day of resurrection in the dress he or she was buried. Say, Ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, give good kafan, shroud, to the deceased among you, because they will rise on the last day dressed in these. Some commentators have interpreted the report as relating to shahids, martyrs who are buried in their dress. Then there are others who have said that it is possible that some people rise dressed on the day of resurrection, and some others without it. In this way, both kinds of reports conjoin. Mashari.
And the record of deeds will be placed open, and you will see the criminals fearful of that within it, and they will say, O woe to us! What is this book that leaves nothing small or great except that it has enumerated it? And they will find what they did present before them, and your Lord does injustice to no one.
Recompense al-Jaza is the deed, al-Amal itself. Towards the end of verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 49, it was said, and they will find what they did all there. Commentators generally explain its sense by saying that they will find the recompense of their deeds present there. My respected teacher, Maulana Say, Ibn Muhammad Anwar Shah Kashmiri, used to say that there is no need for this interpretation here. Countless hadith narratives prove that these very deeds of the mortal world will become the recompense, reward, or punishment of the hereafter. Their forms will transform there. Righteous deeds will transform into the blessings of paradise, and evil deeds will turn into the hellfire, snakes and scorpions. It appears in a hadith that the wealth of those who do not pay zakah will come to them in the grave in the form of a big snake. The thing will bite them, saying, Ana Malak, I am your wealth. The righteous deed, transformed into an elegant human visitor, will come to mollify one's terrible loneliness in the grave. Sacrificial animals will provide the ride over the bridge of Surat. Sins committed will be placed on top of everyone's heads as their burden somewhere withal on the day of resurrection. About devouring what belongs to the orphans by unfair means, it was said in the Quran, they only eat fire into their bellies. Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 10. All such Quranic verses and hadith narratives are generally interpreted as figures of speech. But in the light of the view given above, none of these need a figure of speech to explain. Everything stays intrinsically real as is. The Quran has equated the unlawful consumption of an orphan's property with fire. So the reality is that it is nothing but fire even at that time. But in order to experience its effect, the condition is that one must pass away from this mortal world. It is like someone calling a matchbox by the name of fire, which is correct. But in order that it becomes fire, it remains subject to the condition of friction. Similarly, if someone says that petrol or gas is fire, he would be considered as right, though it would actually materialize only when the condition of being touched by a tiny flame of fire is fulfilled. The outcome is that one's deed, whatever good or bad one does in the moral world, will take the form of reward and punishment in the hereafter. That will be a time when its marks of identification will become different from that of the mortal world and take a form of its own. And Allah alone knows best.
And mention when we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and they prostrated, except for Iblis. He was of the jinn, and departed from the command of his Lord. Then will you take him and his descendants as allies other than me, while they are enemies to you? Wretched it is for the wrongdoers as an exchange.
Commentary. The progeny of Iblis and his descendants and followers. The word Duriyata in verse Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 50 indicates that Iblis, Shaitan, has offspring and a host of descendants and followers. Some commentators have said that progeny at this place means accomplices. That the Shaitan has offspring from his loins is not necessary. But there's a Sahih hadith which Humaydi has reported in Kit and Al-Jam Bain al-Sahihain on the authority of Say Ibn Salman al-Farsi, may Allah be pleased with him. According to his narration, the Holy Prophet told him, do not become like those who are the first to enter the bazaar shopping center, or those who are the last to leave it, for the bazaar is a place where the Shaitan has his eggs and offspring laid around. This would indicate that the progeny of Shaitan spreads out in that manner through what is laid and hatched by him. After having presented this report, Al-Qutubi has said that the Shaitan has accomplices and armies is something established by conclusive proofs, and as for the Shaitan having offspring, a Sahih hadith has appeared above. Allah knows best.
I did not make them witness to the creation of the heavens and the earth, or to the creation of themselves, and I would not have taken the misguiders as assistants.
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 50, for the Tafsir.
And warn of the day when he will say, call my partners whom you claimed. And they will invoke them, but they will not respond to them. And we will put between them a valley of destruction.
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 50, for the Tafsir.
And the criminals will see the fire, and will be certain that they are to fall therein, and they will not find from it a way elsewhere.
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 50, for the Tafsir.
And we have certainly diversified in this Quran for the people from every kind of example. But man has ever been, most of anything, prone to dispute.
The statement, and man is the most quarrelsome of all things, has been testified through a hadith narrated by Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, in which the Holy Prophet has been reported to have said, on the day of Qiyamah, a man from among the disbelievers will be brought forth. He will be asked, what was your response to the messenger we had sent to you? He will say, O my Lord, as for me, I did believe in you and in your messenger too, and that I obey him in everything I did. Allah Ta'ala will say, here is your book of deeds before you. All this you say is not there. This man will say, I do not believe in this book of deeds. Allah Ta'ala will say, what about these angels of ours? They used to watch you. They bear witness against you. This man will say, I do not accept their testimony as well, nor do I know them, nor have I seen them while I was doing what I did. Allah Ta'ala will say, so this preserved tablet is before you. Written here too is the same thing about you. He will say, my Lord, have you granted me asylum from injustice or have you not? Allah Ta'ala will say, of course, you have your refuge against injustice with us. So then he will say, O my Lord, how can I accept the verdict of those unseen witnesses I am not familiar with at all? As for me, I can only accept a witness that comes from my own person. At that time, his mouth will be sealed, and his hands and feet will bear witness against his kufr and shirk. After that, he will be released and thrown into the hell. The subject matter of this narrative has been reported in Sahih Muslim, also from Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, Al-Qutubi.
And nothing has prevented the people from believing when guidance came to them, and from asking forgiveness of their Lord, except that there must befall them the accustomed precedent of the former peoples, or that the punishment should come directly before them.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 54 for the Tafsir.
And we send not the messengers except as bringers of good tidings and warners, and those who disbelieve dispute by using falsehood to attempt to invalidate thereby the truth, and have taken my verses and that of which they are warned in ridicule.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 54 for the Tafsir.
And who is more unjust than one who is reminded of the verses of his Lord but turns away from them and forgets what his hands have put forth? Indeed, we have placed over their hearts coverings lest they understand it, and in their ears deafness. And if you invite them to guidance, they will never be guided then, ever.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 54 for the Tafsir.
And your Lord is the forgiving, full of mercy. If he were to impose blame upon them for what they earned, he would have hastened for them the punishment. Rather, for them is an appointment from which they will never find an escape.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 54 for the Tafsir.
And those cities, we destroyed them when they wronged, and we made for their destruction an appointed time.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 54 for the Tafsir.
And mentioned when Moses said to his servant, I will not cease traveling until I reach the junction of the two seas or continue for a long period.
Commentary. In the description of this event referred to in, and when Musa said to his young man, the opening sentence of verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 60, Musa means the famous prophet, Musa son of Imran. The attribution of this event to some other Musa by Nawf al-Bakhali has been sternly refuted by Sayyid Ibn Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, as reported in the Sahih al-Bukhari. As for the word fata, it literally means a young man. When this word is used as attributed to a particular person, it carries a sense of his attendant or servant, because it is usually a young and strong man who is taken in for this kind of service in order that he could handle all sorts of jobs. Incidentally, it also happens to be an article of good Islamic etiquette that a servant or attendant should be addressed nicely, either by his name or an appellation such as young man. The ground rule is that even servants are not to be addressed as servants. At this place, the attribution of fata is to Sayyid ibn Musa, therefore it means Sayyid ibn Musa's attendant in service. It appears in hadith narratives that the name of this attendant was Yusha son of Nun, son of Ephraim, son of Yusuf. Some narratives identify him as the maternal nephew of Sayyid ibn Musa, but no categorical decision can be taken in this matter. As for his name being Yusha ibn Nun, that much stands proved on the authority of sound narratives. However, there is no proof for the rest of the antecedents. Qatubai, the word Majma al-Bahrain, literally means every such place where two waters meet, and it is obvious that there are many all around the world. Exactly which place is meant by Majma al-Bahrain in this context, since the Quran and Hadith have not pinpointed it precisely, therefore sayings of commentators differ in terms of traces and contexts. According to Canada, it signifies the meeting point of the seas of Faris, Persia, and Rum. Ibn Adiyah has identified a place near Azerbaijan. Some point out to the confluence of the Gulf of Aqaba in Jordan and the Red Sea, Sharm el-Sheikh. Some others have said that this place is located in Tanga. Tanga is in North Africa. Sayyid Ubayd ibn Ka'b, may Allah be pleased with him, reports that it is in Africa. Sadi gives its location in Armenia. Some give its location at the meeting point of the Sea of Angelus, Gibraltar, and the Great Ocean, Atlantic. Allah knows best. However, this much is clear, that Allah Ta'ala had told Sayyidina Musa the fixed geographical location of this place towards which he had made his journey. Qatubai, the story of Sayyidina Musa, Moses, and Al-Qadir, Elias, details of this event appear in the Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim. There, according to a narration of Sayyidina Ubayd ibn Ka'b, may Allah be pleased with him, the Holy Prophet has been reported to have said, once when Musa rose to address his people, the Bani Israel, those present there asked him, of all human beings, who is the foremost in knowledge? Since, in the knowledge of Sayyidina Musa, there was no one more knowledgeable than himself, therefore, he said, I am the foremost in knowledge. Allah Ta'ala has his special ways of grooming prophets close to him, therefore this statement was not welcome. The etiquette of the situation demanded that he should have resigned his answer to the ultimate knowledge of Allah and said that Allah alone knows as to who is the foremost in knowledge among his entire creation. So, the answer given by Musa brought displeasure from Allah Ta'ala, and to him it was revealed, present on the meeting point of the two seas, there is a servant of ours. He is more knowledgeable than you. When Musa came to know this, he submitted before Allah Ta'ala that it was incumbent on him to travel and learn from the person who is superior to him in knowledge. So he said, O Allah, tell me where to find him. Allah Ta'ala said, put a fish in your basket and travel in the direction of the meeting point of the two seas. When you reach the place where this fish disappears, that shall be the place where you meet that servant of ours. As commanded, Musa put a fish in the basket and set out. His attendant, Yusha ibn Nun, was also with him. During the course of travel, they reached a rock, where they lied down resting their heads against it. All of a sudden, on that spot the fish moved, left the basket and went into the sea. With this miracle of the fish coming alive and slipping out into the sea, yet another miracle unfolded when Allah Ta'ala stopped the flow of water currents all along the way the fish took into the sea, making the place like a tunnel into the sea. Yusha ibn Nun witnessed this extraordinary event while Musa was asleep. When he woke up, Yusha ibn Nun forgot to mention this strange happening before him and resumed their journey onwards from there. They traveled for a whole day and night. When came the morning of the next day, Musa asked his companion of the journey, bring us our morning meal. We have indeed had much fatigue from this journey of ours. The Holy Prophet said that, as divinely arranged, Musa felt no fatigue at all before that, so much so that he had over-traversed the spot where he had to reach. It was only when Musa asked for his morning meal that Yusha ibn Nun recalled the fate of the fish, tendered his excuse for having forgotten to mention it, for the shaitan had made him forget about the need to report this matter to him earlier. After that, he disclosed that the dead fish had come alive and gone into the sea in an amazing manner. Thereupon Musa said, that was what we were looking for. That is, the place where the fish comes alive and disappears was the desired destination. So they turned back that very instant and took the same route they had taken earlier in order to find the spot they were looking for. Now, when they reached the familiar rock, they saw that someone was lying there covered with a sheet from the head down to the feet. Musa, taking things as they were, offered the greeting of salam. Al-Qadir asked, where in the world does the salam come from in this uninhabited wilderness? Thereupon Musa said, I am Musa. Al-Qadir asked, Musa Bani Israel? He confirmed, yes, I am Musa Bani Israel. I have come here to ask you to teach me the knowledge Allah has given to you specially. Al-Qadir said, you will be unable to remain patient with me. O Musa, there is a knowledge Allah has given to me, and which you do not have, while there is a knowledge which Allah has given to you which I do not have. Musa said, if Allah wills, you will find me patient. I shall not disobey you in any of your orders. Al-Qadir said, if you are to be with me, do not ask me about anything unless I tell you about it first. After having said this, they started walking by the shore. Then came a boat. A ride was negotiated. The boat people recognized Al-Qadir and let them come on board free of any charges. No sooner did he step into the boat, Al-Qadir forced out a panel of the boat with the help of an axe. Musa could not restrain himself. He said, these people gave us a free ride on the boat. This is what you did to them in return. You tore their boat apart so that they would drown. You have really done something very bad. Al-Qadir said, did I not tell you before that you will be unable to remain patient with me? Thereupon, Musa offered his excuse that he had forgotten his promise and requested him not to take him to task on his act of inadvertent omission. The Holy Prophet, after relating this event, said, the first objection raised by Musa against Al-Qadir was activated by forgetfulness, the second as a condition, and the third by intention. Meanwhile, a bird came, sat down on the side of the boat, and took out a beak full of water from the sea. Thereupon, addressing Musa, Al-Qadir said, even the combined knowledge of the two of us, yours and mine, cannot claim a status against divine knowledge that could be compared even with the water in the beak of this bird as related to the sea. Then, having disembarked from the boat, they started walking on the shore. All of a sudden, Al-Qadir saw a boy playing with other boys. Al-Qadir killed the boy with his own hands. The boy died. Musa said, you took an innocent life unjustly. Indeed, this was a grave sin you committed. Al-Qadir said, did I not tell you before that you will be unable to remain patient with me? Musa noticed that this matter was far more serious than the first one. Therefore, he said, if I question you after this, you will be free to remove me from your company. As far as I am concerned, You have reached the limit of excuses from me." After that, they started walking again until they passed by a village. They requested the village people to house them as guests. They refused. In this habitation, they noticed a wall that was about to collapse. Al-Qadir made it stand straight with his own hands. Surprised, Musa said, "We requested their hospitality. They refused. Now you did such a big job for them. If you wished, you could have charged wages from them to do it." Al-Qadir said, "It means that the condition now stands fulfilled, therefore time has come for you and me to part company." Then, after telling Musa the reality behind the three events, Al-Qadir said, "Which means that was the reality of the events over which you were unable to remain patient." Once he had narrated this entire event, the Holy Prophet said, "I wish Musa could have remained more patient so that we would have come to know more about the two of them." This lengthy hadith appears in the Sahih of al-Bukhari and Muslim in a manner that it establishes three things. It clearly mentions the name of Sayyid ibn Musa as Musa Bani Israel, the name of his young companion during the travel as Yusha ibn Nun, and the name of the servant of Allah to whom Sayyid ibn Musa was sent towards the meeting point of the two seas as Al-Qadir. Now from this point onwards, we shall take up the verses of the Quran and explain their sense, some rules of the road, and a model of high prophetic determination. The first statement made in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 60, "I shall not give up until I reach the meeting point of the two seas, or else I shall go on for years," was from Sayyidina Musa as addressed to his traveling companion, Yusha ibn Nun. The purpose was to inform him about the direction and destination of the intended journey. This too releases a refinement in manners, for he was taking the necessary steps to orient his companion and attendant with the knowledge of things essential for the journey. Proud and arrogant people just do not regard servants and attendants worth addressing, nor would they pass on any information to them about a projected journey. The word hukubat years is the plural of haqba. According to lexicographers, haqba is a period of 80 years. Some add more years to this definition. The truth of the matter is that hukuba refers to a long period of time. There are no set limits about it. Here, Sayyidina Musa has told his companion on the trip that he has to reach a particular place at the meeting point of the two seas. There he must reach as commanded by Allah Ta'ala, and that he was determined to continue his journey until he reaches that destination, no matter how long the journey takes, when ready to obey the command of their Lord. This is a model of high determination exhibited by prophets.
But when they reached the junction between them, they forgot their fish, and it took its course into the sea, slipping away.
Precedence of Sayyid ibn Musa over Al-Qadir, his upbringing and miracles. In the next verse, it was said, "So when they reached the meeting point of the two seas, they forgot their fish, and it made its way into the sea as in a tunnel." Before we explain the nature of the extraordinary happening there, it is appropriate to first refer to the distinct position bestowed upon Sayyidina Musa in the comedy of prophets. This has been mentioned explicitly in the Quran and Sunnah. The special distinction of having conversed with Allah Ta'ala is his hallmark. With Al-Qadir, the matter is different. To begin with, the very fact of his being a prophet has been debated. Even if his prophethood, nubuwwah, is acknowledged, he does not hold the station of a messenger rasul of Allah. Neither is he credited with a book, nor does he have a distinct community of followers. Therefore, considering all related aspects, Sayyid ibn Musa has marked precedence over Al-Qadir. But Allah Ta'ala has his own wise ways to help those close to him perform better. He would not let the least want or shortcoming go uncorrected, and not amended. This process of reform at the highest level would even bring serious displeasure from Allah, and it is through an equally serious measure that they are made to prepare for it. This whole story reflects the same mode of personnel training. By saying, "And he had said, I am the foremost in knowledge," Allah Ta'ala did not like it. So, as a measure of warning, he was given the whereabouts of a servant who had a field of knowledge specially given to him by Allah. This Sayyid ibn Musa did not have, though the knowledge of Sayyid ibn Musa was far higher in rank than that given to him. But the truth of the matter was that Sayyid ibn Musa just did not have it. On the other side, Allah Ta'ala had blessed Sayyid ibn Musa with an intense desire to seek knowledge. As soon as he smelt the scent of knowledge elsewhere too, knowledge that he did not have, he was all set to go for it, traveling like an ardent student, and it was Allah Ta'ala himself that he turned to for the address of that servant of his, Al-Qadir. Now, there is something worth pondering at this point. Had it been the will of Allah Ta'ala that Musa should meet Al-Qadir at that spot, he could have arranged that easily. Or, if Sayyidina Musa himself was divinely destined to travel, He could have been given a clear address to help him reach it without any botheration. But what happened here was different. The address given to him was far from being precise. When you reach the place where the dead fish stirs and disappears, that will be the place you will find our servant. Just about what this hadith of this al-Bukhari proves is that the command to put a fish in their basket came from Allah Ta'ala. Beyond that, it is not known whether the order was to carry a fish for eating or that it was to be carried as separate from what was to be eaten. Both probabilities exist. Therefore, some of the commentators said that this grilled fish was put in to eat, and during the course of the journey, the two travelers kept eating out of it as well. Even thus was almost half of it. After that, miraculously enough, this grilled and half-eaten fish came alive and went into the sea. Ibn Atiyah and many others also observe that this fish kept surviving in the world as a matter of miracle, and there were those who even saw that it had only one side intact while the other was eaten. Ibn Atiyah has also put his personal sighting on record. Quttubi, and there are other commentators who have said that the command was to put a fish in a basket separate from that for food. The fish was put as commanded. Here too, at least this much is definite, that the fish was dead. Its stirring up, becoming alive, and going into the sea was nothing but a miracle. We have said a little earlier that the address of Al-Qadir was left imprecise in a manner that it would not remain easy to pinpoint it. Obviously, this too was nothing but a trial and test for Sayyidina Musa. As though this was not enough, the scenario of an additional test was activated for them when they had reached the exact spot but forgot the fish. In the verse of the Quran, this act of forgetting has been attributed to Sayyidina Musa and his companion both. They forgot their fish. But as regards the story proved from the hadith of Al-Bukhari, it seems to indicate that Sayyidina Musa was asleep when came the time for the fish to become alive and go into the sea. This extraordinary event was witnessed by Yusha ibn Nun only, and he had intended that he would relate it to Sayyidina Musa as soon as he woke up. But soon after that happened, Allah Ta'ala cast a state of oblivion on him, and he forgot to do that. If so, the attribution of forgetfulness to both of them would be similar to the statement of the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman, Ayah 22. Here it has been said that pearl and coral are extracted from both sweet and brackish waters, although these are collected from the later only. But saying something like this in usage is common. Then it is also possible that since both respected elders had forgotten to take this fish along with them as far as the journey from that point onwards was concerned, therefore forgetfulness was attributed to both. Nevertheless, this was yet another test. After having reached the projected destination, the fish came alive and disappeared into the sea. The reality had unfolded and the place was pinpointed. But that was not the end. The seeker of truth had to undergo yet another test. Therefore, forgetfulness overtook both of them, and it was only after having traveled 1 day and 1 night more that they realized hunger and fatigue. This was the third test, because any realization of fatigue and hunger should have naturally come earlier than that. If they had recalled the fish at that earlier time and place, they would have not suffered from such a long additional journey. But such was the will of Allah Ta'ala that they had to face a little more of hardship. It was only after having gone through the grind of such a long journey that they felt hungry and thirsty, and there it was that they remembered the fish and found out that they had come far ahead of their desired destination. Therefore, they returned back on the same footprints they had left earlier. The first mention of the fish going into the sea was made through the word Saraba. Sarab means a tunnel that is dug to open up a passage through the mountains or an underground subway in cities. This tells us that the fish, when it went into the sea, had a tunnel-like passage forming itself in whatever direction it moved. Water currents did not obstruct its passage at all, rather left it open, as made explicit by the narrative from the Sahih of Al-Bukhari. The second time, when Yusha ibn Nun related this event before Sayyidina Musa after their long journey, it was done in the following amazingly. It made its way into the sea, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 63. There is no contradiction between the two, because the incidence of a tunnel forming itself into the sea was by itself an extraordinarily amazing event.
So when they had passed beyond it, Moses said to his boy, "Bring us our morning meal. We have certainly suffered in this, our journey, much fatigue."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 61 for the Tafsir.
He said, "Did you see when we retired to the rock? Indeed, I forgot there the fish, and none made me forget it except Satan, that I should mention it, and it took its course into the sea amazingly."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 61 for the Tafsir.
Moses said, "That is what we were seeking." So they returned, following their footprints.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 61 for the Tafsir.
And they found a servant from among our servants, to whom we had given mercy from us, and had taught him from us a certain knowledge.
About Al-Qadir and the issue of his prophethood. Though the name of the person concerned in this event has not been mentioned in the Quran, in fact, he has been called a servant from among our servants, but in the hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari, his name has been given as Al-Qadir. Literally, it means green, verdant. Giving the reason for his name being Al-Qadir, commentators at large say that grass would grow at the spot where he would sit, no matter what the nature of the land. It would just turn green. The Quran has also not made it clear whether Al-Qadir was some prophet, or was one of the men of Allah. But in the sight of the majority of religious scholars, the proof of his being a prophet is embedded within the events mentioned in the Quran. There's a reason for it. Some of the proved events during this journey that issue forth from Al-Qadir are absolutely counter to the Sharia, and there can be no exemption from an injunction of the Sharia, except under the authority of a divine revelation, something restricted to a prophet and messenger of Allah. A wali, man of Allah, could also come to know something either through kashf, illumination, or ilm, inspiration, but that is not an authority to prove a rule of Sharia. No injunction of the externally codified Sharia can be changed on that basis. Therefore it stands established that Al-Qadir was a prophet and messenger of Allah. Given to him were some of those particular injunctions that were counter to the codified Sharia. Whatever he did under the authority of this accepted injunction. He himself has attested to that in the sentence of the Quran, saying, "And I did not do it under my authority, that is, did it under divine authority." In short, according to the majority of religious scholars of the Muslim community, Al-Qadir too is a prophet and messenger. But it was an imperative of creation that some duties were assigned to him from Allah. The knowledge given to him related to these very duties. Of this Sayyidina Musa had no information, therefore he objected. This subject has been dealt with in Tafsir al-Qur'an by Abbar al-Muhid of Abu Hayyan, and in most commentaries variously. It is not lawful for any wali or man of Allah to contravene the injunction of codified Sharia. Right from here we learn that there is no shortage of ignorant and misguided Sufis who give a bad name to Tasawwuf. The likes of them would say that Sharia is something else and Tariqah is something else. There are many things taken as haram in the Sharia, but they are permissible in the Tariqah. Therefore, even if you see a wali, man of Allah, involved in a major sin openly and clearly, you cannot raise an objection against him. This is heresy flagrant and false. No wali, no man of Allah anywhere in this world can be taken on the analogy of Al-Qadir, nor can any act contrary to the codified Sharia issuing forth from him be called permissible.
Moses said to him, "May I follow you on the condition that you teach me from what you have been taught of sound judgment?"
Following the teacher is incumbent on the student. In verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 66, Sayyidina Musa, despite being a prophet and messenger of great resolve, has most reverentially requested Al-Qadir if he could follow him to learn his knowledge from him. This tells us that the etiquette of acquiring knowledge is nothing but that the student should show respect for the teacher and follow him as an individual who is eager to learn, even if the student happens to be superior to his teacher. Qutb by Majari.
He said, "Indeed, with me you will never be able to have patience."
It is not permissible for an alim of the Sharia to patiently bear what is contrary to the Sharia. By saying, "You can never be able to keep patient while with me." And how would you keep patient over something your comprehension cannot grasp? Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 67-68, Al-Qadir was telling Sayyidina Musa about the fact and the reason why he would be unable to keep patient with him. He knew nothing about the reality of the thing. What he meant was that the nature of knowledge given to him was different from the knowledge of Sayyidina Musa. Therefore, things he did would appear to be objectionable in his sight, until he himself was to apprise him of their reality. Thus, the objections he would raise against such actions would be triggered by the dictates of his mission as a prophet. Since Sayyidina Musa was ordered to go to and learn from Al-Qadir by none but Allah Ta'ala, therefore, he was initially at peace with himself, hoping that nothing he did would really be counter to the Sharia, though he may not understand it externally. So, he promised to keep patient. Otherwise, the making of such a promise is not permissible for any alim of din. But later on, overtaken by his strong sense of honor relating to the Sharia, he forgot about this promise. The first event was really not that serious. That the boat people would suffer from financial loss, where the boat may sink, remained at the level of an impending danger only, which stood removed later on. But in the case of the event that took place thereafter, Musa did not even make that promise of not objecting. In fact, when he saw the incident of a boy having been killed, he objected vehemently and did not offer any excuse whatsoever for his objection either. He simply said if he came up with an objection next time, Al-Qadir would have the right of not keeping him in his company. The underlying logic was that no prophet and messenger of Allah can bear by seeing things being done against the norms of the Sharia and yet maintaining a stance of peevish patience. However, this was a unique situation. There were prophets on both sides. Therefore, the reality unfolded. It finally turned out that these fragmentary events were exempted for Al-Qadir from the purview of the general rules of the Sharia. Whatever he did only in accordance with the dictates of the divine wahi, revelation, mashari, basic difference in the knowledge of Sayyidina Musa and Al-Qadir, resolution of an apparent dichotomy. Naturally, a question arises here. We see that, according to the explanation of Al-Qadir, the nature of the knowledge given to him was different from that of the knowledge of Sayyidina Musa. Now, when both these two areas of knowledge were given by Allah Ta'ala alone, why did this contradiction and difference show up in their two respective injunctions? Kadithanullah of Panipati has given a research-based answer to this question in his Tafsir Majari. It is the closest to being right and appealing. Given below is the gist of what I understand from his presentation. The blessed souls Allah Ta'ala honors with his revelation and prophethood are generally those who are entrusted with the mission of making people better. Sent to them is a book and Sharia which offer principles and rules that serve as blueprints of guidance and betterment for the creation of Allah. Blessed prophets and messengers mentioned in the noble Quran as such were all assigned with the mission of law and reform. To this related the revelation they received. But then, there are services essential to the realm of creation, taqwan, as well. Generally, appointed to take care of these are the angels of Allah. However, Allah Ta'ala has specifically chosen some from among the group of prophets also in order to carry out the services of taqwan, whereby the decisions of Allah's will relating to the management of His creation are in force. Al-Qadir belongs to this very group. These imperatives of taqwan relate to minor incidents and events that a certain person should be saved from getting drowned, or someone should be killed, promoted or demoted or subdued. These matters do not relate to common people at all, nor are they addressed by these imperatives. In such events of minor consequences, one may confront some of those situations where killing the person is against the religious law, but under the imperative of creation, that particular event has been exempted from the general religious law and the act has been made permissible for the person who has been appointed to carry out this imperative of taqwan. Under such conditions, the experts of religious law are not aware of this exempted injunction and are compelled to call it haram, unlawful, and the person who has been exempted from this law under the imperative of taqwan remains in the right in his own place. In short, wherever such a contradiction is perceived, it is no contradiction in the real sense. It is simply the exemption of some minor events from the general religious law. In Al-Bard al-Mu'it, Abu Hayyan said, the majority holds Al-Qadir to be a prophet, and his knowledge was the gnosis of the inner dimensions of the human self which was revealed to him, and the knowledge of Musa was of the injunctions and rulings on the apparent. Al-Bard al-Mu'it p. 147d. 6. For the aforesaid reason, it is also necessary that this exemption should take effect through revelation to a prophet. The kashf, illumination, and iham, inspiration, of some wali, man of Allah, are never sufficient to make such an exemption effective. This is the reason why the act of Al-Qadir in killing a boy apparently without a just reason was haram, unlawful, in the sight of the Sharia, which rules on the apparent. But as for Al-Qadir, he was appointed to do that while exempted from this law as an imperative of creation, taqwan, taking the kashf and ilm of some non-prophet on the analogy of Al-Qadir, and by taking something haram, unlawful, to be halal, lawful, as popular among some ignorant Sufis, is totally anti-religion and certainly a rebellion against Islam. Ibn Abi Shayba reports an event relating to Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, by saying that Najd al-Harari, a Kharijite, wrote a letter to Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and asked as to how did Al-Qadir kill a minor boy when the Holy Prophet has prohibited the killing of minors. Sayyidina ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, answered his letter by saying, if you were to receive the same knowledge about some minor as was received by Sayyidina Musa's man of knowledge, that is Al-Qadir, the killing of a minor would become permissible for you too. What he meant was that Al-Qadir had received his knowledge about it only through revelation exclusive to a prophet. That nobody can have now because prophethood has ended. There is to be no prophet after the last among prophets, that is, Muhammad al-Mustafa, who could have through revelation knowledge about some particular person to have been exempted under divine command in the case of such events. Mashari, from this event too, the real thing becomes clear, that is, no one other than a revelation-receiving prophet has the right to declare anyone as exempted from any Islamic legal injunction.
And how can you have patience for what you do not encompass in knowledge?
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 67, for the Tafsir.
Moses said, "You will find me, if Allah wills, patient, and I will not disobey you in any order."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 67, for the Tafsir.
He said, "Then if you follow me, do not ask me about anything until I make to you about it mention."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 67, for the Tafsir.
So they set out, until when they had embarked on the ship, Al-Khidr tore it open. Moses said, "Have you torn it open to drown its people? You have certainly done a grave thing."
Commentary. It was said in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 71, "Did you break it that you drown its people?" About it, it appears in the hadith of the Sahih of Al-Bukhari and Muslim that Al-Qadir had dislodged a plank of the boat with an axe, because of which there was a danger that water would fill up the boat and it would capsize. Therefore, say Ibn Musa had objected to it. But according to historical reports, water did not fill into this boat. This may have happened either because Al-Qadir had somehow repaired it himself soon after, as in a report carried by Al-Bayhawi according to which Al-Qadir had replaced the plank with glass, or water just did not enter the boat in the manner of a miracle. However, the context of the Qur'an by itself is telling us that the boat did not capsize, something which supports these reports.
Al-Khidr said, "Did I not say that with me you would never be able to have patience?"
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 71, for the Tafsir.
Moses said, "Do not blame me for what I forgot, and do not cover me in my matter with difficulty."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 71, for the Tafsir.
So they set out, until when they met a boy, Al-Khidr killed him. Moses said, "Have you killed a pure soul for other than having killed a soul? You have certainly done a deplorable thing."
We now move to the sentence, "until when they met a boy." The word gulam in the text is used for a minor boy in the Arabic usage. This boy killed by Al-Qadir was a minor, as corroborated by Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and most commentators. Further on, when the words innocent person were used for him, that too supports the view that he was a minor. The reason is that Zakiya means free of sin, and it can be either the attribute of a prophet or a minor child who faces no accounting for what is done by him, and no sin is written in his book of deeds.
Al-Khidr said, "Did I not tell you that with me you would never be able to have patience?"
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 74, for the Tafsir.
Moses said, "If I should ask you about anything after this, then do not keep me as a companion. You have obtained from me an excuse."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 74, for the Tafsir.
So they set out, until when they came to the people of a town, they asked its people for food, but they refused to offer them hospitality. And they found therein a wall about to collapse, so Al-Khidr restored it. Moses said, "If you wished, you could have taken for it a payment."
The habitation mentioned the people of a town which Sayyidina Musa and Al-Qadir passed through, and whose inhabitants refused to host them, was Antakya, as in the report of Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, and Aka, as in the report of Ibn Sirin. It has also been reported from Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, that it was some habitation of Al-Andalus, Spain. Majari, Allah knows best.
Al-Khidr said, "This is parting between me and you. I will inform you of the interpretation of that about which you could not have patience."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayat 77, for the Tafsir.
As for the ship, it belonged to poor people working at sea, so I intended to cause defect in it, as there was after them a king who seized every good ship by force.
Commentary. In the first verse it was said, as for the boat, it belonged to some poor people. About the poor people to whom this boat belonged, it has been reported from Sayyidina Ka'b al-Ahbar, may Allah be pleased with him, that they were 10 brothers. 5 of them were handicapped, while the other 5 worked hard to eke out a living for all of them by plying a boat against whatever fare they could collect. The definition of a miskin. A miskin has been defined as one who has nothing. But from this verse, we learn the true definition of a miskin: anyone who does not have the amount of wealth and property that exceed his need, basic and necessary, to the limit of legal nisab, threshold of zakah. One who has less than that is also included under the definition of miskin. The reason is that people called al-masakin, plural of miskin, poor people, had at least one boat, the price of which will not be less than the amount of nisab, threshold, but as it was engaged in earning what those people needed, basically and necessarily, they were still called masakin, poor people. Majari, regarding the last sentence of verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 79, Al-Baghawi has reported from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that the direction in which this boat was sailing, there was a cruel king who used to take boats ferrying people through by force. Al-Qadir found it expedient to pull out a plank from the boat, so that the cruel king, seeing this damaged boat, would let it go, and thus those poor people would remain safe from the likely mishap. Comment Sage Rumi: yes, Al-Qadir did break the boat while sailing at sea, but 100 saving graces in his breaking we see.
And as for the boy, his parents were believers, and we feared that he would overburden them by transgression and disbelief.
The opening sentence of verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 80, as for the boy, means the boy who was killed by Al-Qadir. The reality behind it, as stated by him, was that the boy was cut out for infidelity and rebellion against parents. His parents were pious people. Al-Qadir said that they apprehended that, once this boy grew up, he would harass his parents and cause them pain. And when he took to infidelity as a young man, he would not only become a live trial for the parents, but would also endanger the very faith of his parents because of their love for him.
So we intended that their Lord should substitute for them one better than him in purity and nearer to mercy.
In verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 81, it was said, we therefore wish that their Lord would replace him with someone better than him in piety, having good deeds and morals, and more akin to affection, fulfilling due rights of the parents. It will be noticed that the form used in this situation is plural. We apprehended, and we wished. One reason for it could be that Al-Qadir attributed this apprehension and wish to himself and to Allah Ta'ala both. And it is also possible that he may have attributed it to himself alone. If so, the expression, we wish, would mean, we pray to Allah, because this matter of replacing a boy with a better one is an act which falls in the exclusive domain of Allah Ta'ala. Al-Qadir or some other human being cannot be associated with it. If at this point someone were to say, if it was in the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala that this boy will grow into an infidel and mislead his parents as well, then this event, true to the knowledge of Allah Ta'ala, should have necessarily transpired as it did. Then this doubt would be incorrect, for the reason that nothing can come into being contrary to divine knowledge. It can be answered by saying that it was there in divine knowledge with the appendage and condition. If he reached maturity, he will not only become a disbeliever himself, but would pose a danger for other Muslims also. Then, as he was killed before reaching the age of maturity, the ensuing event is not contrary to divine knowledge. Majari, Ibn Abi Shayba, Ibn al-Mundhir and Ibn Abi Haytham have reported from Ibn Adiyah that Allah Ta'ala had blessed the parents of the slain boy with a girl in his place who became the mother of a prophet. And as in a report from Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, she gave birth to 2 prophets. Some other reports say that through the prophet she gave birth to, Allah Ta'ala gave guidance to a large community.
And as for the wall, it belonged to 2 orphan boys in the city, and there was beneath it a treasure for them, and their father had been righteous. So your Lord intended that they reach maturity and extract their treasure as a mercy from your Lord. And I did it not of my own accord. That is the interpretation of that about which you could not have patience.
About the statement, and there was beneath it a treasure for them, Sayyidina Abu al-Dard, may Allah be pleased with him, has reported from the Holy Prophet that it was a treasure chest of gold and silver. Narrated by Tirmidhi and al-Hakim, from Majari, Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said that it was a tablet of gold inscribed with the following good counsel. This report was also narrated by Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, with its chain of narrators ascending to the Holy Prophet, Qatubai, by Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, with the name of Allah, the most merciful, the very merciful. Amazing is the person who believes in destiny, then how could he despair? Amazing is the person who believes that Allah Ta'ala is the sponsor of all in their sustenance. Still, why would he consume himself in striving for more than he needs and in achieving what is redundant? Amazing is the person who believes in death, yet how could he remain all happy? Amazing is the person who believes in the reckoning of the hereafter, yet how could he afford to be heedless? Amazing is the person who knows the world and its vicissitudes, yet how could he sit relaxed about it? La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is a messenger of Allah. The benefit of the righteousness of parents reaches children and their children. This statement, "and their father was a pious man," carries a hint that arrangements were made to have the buried treasure secured for the orphan children through Al-Qadir for the reason that the father of the orphan children was some pious man dear in the sight of Allah. Therefore, it was to grant his wish and to bring benefit to his children that Allah Ta'ala made this arrangement. Muhammad ibn al-Munkadir says, "It is because of the piety and righteousness of a servant of his that Allah Ta'ala protects his children, and the children of his children, and his family, even the homes built around his own." Majari, as in Al-Qutubi, sage Shibli used to say that he was a guarantee of peace for the city and the area adjoining it. When he died, it was soon after his burial that the disbelievers of Dalim crossed Euphrates and took over Baghdad. At that time, everyone was saying that they were struck by double distress, the death of Shibli and the sack of Dalim. Qutubi, p. 29b. 11. According to Tafsir Majari, this verse also indicates that people too should show consideration and affection for the children of the learned and the pious, unless, of course, they were to succumb to disbelief and sin. Later, the word ashad, in that they reach their maturity, is a plural form of shida, meaning maturity, the age when one reaches full maturity and becomes able to decide what is good or bad for him. According to Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him, this is the age of 25 years. Others put it at 40 years because it appears in the Quran, until when he reaches his maturity and reaches the age of 40 years. Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 15, prophetic eloquence and the nuances of etiquette. An example. Before we turn to this example, let us first understand that nothing can happen in this world, good or bad, without the will and intention of Allah Ta'ala. All phenomena of good and evil is as created by Him and is subservient to His intention and will. Things understood or named as evil or bad do deserve to be called as evil or bad in terms of particular individuals and particular circumstances. But given a total worldview, they all are necessary and nothing but good in terms of being a divine creation is based on wisdom. In short, whatever calamity or accident stands activated in this world simply cannot materialize without the will and intention of Allah Ta'ala. In that respect, every good and evil can also be attributed to Allah Ta'ala. But the fact is that, given the creation of Allah Ta'ala, no evil is evil. Therefore, etiquette demands that evil should not be attributed towards Allah Ta'ala. The words of Sayyidina Ibrahim mentioned in the Quran, "It is He who gives me things to eat and drink," Surah Ash-Shara, Ayah 79, and when I am sick, "It is He who cures me," Surah Ash-Shara, Ayah 80, are a good example. They teach us the same etiquette when the provision of food and drink has been attributed to Allah Ta'ala. Then comes the provision of cure from sickness. This too has been attributed to Him. In between came the mention of sickness. He attributed it to Himself in the words, "And when I am sick, it is He who cures me, not in the manner. When He makes me fall sick, He cures me too." Let us now consider the diction of Al-Qadir. When he formed the intention of breaking the bow, which was obviously a vicious act, he attributed this intention to himself and said, "Araditu, I wanted to make it defective." After that, he mentioned the killing of the boy and wished someone would replace him who would be better than him. Here, there was evil in the act of killing, while being blessed with better progeny in his place was something good. Therefore, because of this common factor, the form used was that of a first person, plural. It was said, "Aradna, we wish so that whatever obvious evil there lies in it is beamed back to his own self, and whatever good lies in it stands attributed to Allah Ta'ala." As for the third event, setting the wall right to secure the property of the orphans, it was nothing but good. This was attributed entirely to Allah Ta'ala by saying, "Fa arada Rabbuk," so your Lord willed. Is Al-Qadir alive, or is he dead? The event related to Al-Qadir mentioned in the Quran has nothing to do with the question of his life or death after it. Therefore, no clear statement in this regard is present in the Quran and Sunnah. Some reports suggest his being alive, till now, while others tell us otherwise. Thus, scholarly opinion has always been at variance in this matter. Those who hold that he is alive argue on the basis of the narrative from Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, carried by Al-Hakim in his Al-Mustadrak. It says, when the Holy Prophet left this mortal world, there came a person in black and white beard. Tearing the crowd of people, he reached inside and started weeping. Then, turning to the noble companions, may Allah be pleased with him, he said the following words, indeed, in Allah there is endurance against all distress, and recompense of everything taken away, and He is the real caretaker, for He alone survives after everyone is dead. So, return to Allah, turn to Him passionately and long for Him alone, because deprived is he who has been deprived of the reward of enduring distress. After having said these words, when the visitor departed, Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, said, he was Al-Qadir. This narrative has also been reported by Ibn al-Jazri in his Al-Hisn al-Hasan, where the compiler is particular about including nothing but what is authentic. And in Sahih Muslim, it appears that Dajjal, impostor, will reach a point close to Medina when a man of Medina will come out to confront him. He will be the best of men during that time, or among the better ones. Abu Ishaq said, this person will be Al-Qadir. Qutubai and Ibn Abi ad-Dunya has reported in Kit Ab al-Hawatif with necessary chains of authority that say, Ibn Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, met Al-Qadir, who told him about a dua which, if recited by anyone after every salah, would bring for him great reward, forgiveness and mercy. That prayer is given below. O he whose hearing of one thing does not hamper his hearing of the other, and O he who never errs in responding to millions of requests simultaneously, and O he who never becomes weary of the plaints made repeatedly by those who make them in prayers, let me, in your mercy, have a cool taste of your forgiveness and sweetness of your pardon. Qutubai then, within the same book, exactly the same event, the same prayer, and the same incidents of meeting with Al-Qadir has been reported from Sayyidina Umar, may Allah be pleased with him as well. Qutubai, similar to this, there are countless events relating to Al-Qadir that have been attributed to the community's men of Allah. Awliya. As for those who do not accept the likelihood of Al-Qadir being alive, their major argument comes from the hadith of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, appearing in Sahih Muslim. He says, one night, the Holy Prophet led the Isha prayer for us during the latter days of his blessed life. After having turned for salam, he rose and said these words, do you see this night of yours? And after 100 years from this night, not one of those present over the land will be alive. After having narrated this report, Sayyidina ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, people say different things about it, but what the Holy Prophet meant to say was that this age will be over after 100 years. This narrative has been reported in Sahih Muslim also from Sayyidina Jabir ibn Abdullah, almost in the same words. But after having quoted this report, Allama al-Qutubai said, it offers no conclusive argument for those who hold that the notion of Al-Qadir being alive is false, because in this narrative, the words used for the entire progeny of Sayyidina Adam are general, with a strong emphasis on the generality. Yet it contains no decisive authority, nas, to prove that this generality covers the entire progeny of Sayyidina Adam necessarily. The reason is that Sayyidina Isa too is among the progeny of Sayyidina Adam, who has not died, nor was he killed. Therefore, as obvious, the letters Alif Lam and the words Alat al-Ard, over the land, is the Alif Lam of Ad, which points out to something familiar to the addressees and means the land of Arabia. It does not include the whole land mass of the world, out of which the Arabs had never heard even the names of the land of Gog and Magog, Yajij and Majij, the Far East and the islands of the West. This was the view of Allama al-Qutubai. Similarly, some people have taken the issue of the finality of prophethood as contrary to the notion of Al-Qadir being alive. The answer to this is also clear. It can be said that the way the life of Sayyidina Isa is not contrary to the finality of prophethood, the life of Al-Qadir can also be quite similar. Some people have raised a doubt about the life of Al-Qadir. They say if he were present during the blessed period of the Holy Prophet, it would have been mandatory for him to come to him and to serve the cause of Islam under him. Because it was said in Hadith, had Musa been alive today, he would have had no choice but to follow me, for my coming has resulted in the abrogation of the faith of Musa. But not far out is the possibility that the life and prophethood of Al-Qadir still may be different from that of the usual Sharia-bearing prophets. Since he is charged with the duty of carrying out certain affairs of creation, taqwa entrusted with him by Allah Ta'ala, he takes care of this appointed duty, staying aloof from people at large. As for following the Sharia of the last prophet, it is not a far-out proposition that he may have started acting in accordance with it after the advent of the prophethood of Sayyidina Muhammad al-Mustafa. Allah knows best. In Tafsir al-Muhid, Abu Hassan has reported events of several pious elders having met Al-Qadir, but along with it, he has also said, as for the majority of religious scholars, they hold the position that Al-Qadir has died. Al-Muhid p. 147, vol. 6 in Tafsir Majari, Kadithanullah of Panipati has said, the resolution of all these difficulties lies in what say it Ahmad al-Sarhandi, known as the reviver of the second Islamic millennium, said on the basis of his Mukashafa, discovery through induced illumination. His words are, I personally asked Al-Qadir about this matter in a state of kashf. He said, I and Ilyas are both not alive, but Allah Ta'ala has granted us the ability to appear in the guise of living men and help people in different ways. Allah, the Pure, the Exalted, knows best. Conclusion. I have said earlier that none of our articles of faith or problems of religious practice is connected with the death or life of Al-Qadir. Therefore, no clarification or explanation was given in the Quran and Sunnah about it. So, there is just no need to enter into unnecessary discussion or debate in it, nor have we been obligated to believe in any one of the sides of the issue. But as this problem has found currency on a wider level, details have been provided.
And they ask you, O Muhammad, about Dhil Qarnayn. Say, I will recite to you about him a report.
Commentary. Verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 84 opens with the statement, they ask you, who is asking? Related narratives show that they were the Quraysh of Makkah, those who were coached to ask 3 questions from the Holy Prophet. The purpose was to test his prophethood and veracity. The questions were about Ra, spirit, Ashat al-Kahf, people of Kahf, and D, Dhul-Qarnayn. 2 of these have already been answered. The story of the people of Kahf has appeared earlier in this surah. The question about Ra has appeared towards the later part of the previous surah. Bani Israel, Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 85, who was D, Dhul-Qarnayn, and what happened to him? This is the 3rd question. Al-Muhid, D, Dhul-Qarnayn, his identity, period, and country, and the reason why he was so named. Why was he named the Dhul-Qarnayn? The one having 2 horns. Regarding its reason, there are numerous sayings and strong differences. Some said that he had 2 curly locks of hair, therefore he was called the Dhul-Qarnayn. Some others said that he ruled countries of the east and west, therefore he was named the Dhul-Qarnayn. There was someone who also said that he had marks on his head that resembled those of horns. It appears in some narratives that he had wound marks on both sides of his head, therefore he was identified as the Dhul-Qarnayn. Allah knows best. But this much already stands determined that the Quran has certainly not given him the name of the Dhul-Qarnayn. In fact, this name came from the Jews. He may have been known by this name with them. Whatever part of the event of the Dhul-Qarnayn has been mentioned by the Holy Quran is no more than what is described below. He was a righteous and just king who reached the east and the west and conquered countries in between and ruled there justly. All sorts of means had been provided to him by Allah Ta'ala in order to help him achieve his objectives. On the route of his conquests, he traveled in 3 directions, to the far west, to the far east, and then to the mountain range in the north. At the last mentioned place, he closed the pass in between 2 mountains by a wall cast in molten metal, which made it possible for the people of the area to stay protected against the pillage of Gog and Magog. As for the question posed by the Jews to test the veracity and prophethood of the Holy Prophet, the answer given had left them satisfied. They did not ask any more questions such as, why was he given the name D, Dhul-Qarnayn? Which country did he come from? What period of time did he belong to? This tells us that the Jews themselves took such questions to be unnecessary and redundant. And it is obvious that the Quran mentions only that part of history or stories which relates to what is beneficial in the present life or in the life to come, or on which depends the understanding of something necessary. Therefore, neither did the Quran take these things up, nor were there any details about it described in any authentic hadith. And it was for the same reason that the most righteous forebears of Islam, the Sahaba and the Tabi'in, also paid no particular attention to it. Now the thing that remains to be addressed is this matter of historical narratives with that of the present Torah and Injil. And it is also evident that perennial interpolations and alterations have not left even the present Torah and Injil intact as revealed scriptures. Their status can now be that of history at the most. As for ancient historical narratives, they are overwhelmingly filled with Israeli tales that come from no authentic source, nor have they been found trustworthy in the sight of the learned of any time. Whatever the commentators have said in this matter is a compendium of these very historical narratives. Therefore, there are countless differences in them. Europeans have given great importance to history in modern times. No doubt, they have carried out pains, taking research in this field. Through archaeological excavations and collection of inscriptions and artifacts, they have tried to reach the reality behind past events, and in this process, they have come up with achievements not matched in earlier times. But archaeological finds, inscriptions, etc., can certainly help support an event, but it is not possible to read a whole event through these. For it, therefore, historical narratives alone have become the basis. As for the validity of old historical narratives in these matters, we have just now learned that their status is no more than that of a story. In their books, scholars of Tafsir, classical or modern, have reported these narratives in their historical status. Only no Quranic objective depends on the element of their authenticity. Here, too, that which is necessary is being written with the same status in view. A comprehensive research relating to this event appears in Qasas al-Quran by Maulana Hifz Rahman. May Allah have mercy on him. Readers with a taste for history may see it there. In some narratives, it appears that there have been 4 kings who ruled over the whole world, 2 believers and 2 disbelievers. The believing kings are, say, Inna Suleiman and D. Hul-Qarnayn, while the disbelieving ones are Namrud, and Nebuchadnezzar of Knassar. About D. Hul-Qarnayn. It is a strange coincidence that several men have been famous in the world while bearing the same name, and it is equally strange that the title Sikandar, Alexander, is also attached with the D. Hul-Qarnayn at every period of time. Approximately 300 years before say, in the Masih there is a king known as Sikandar, Alexander. He is identified with the appellations of the Greek, the Macedonian, the Roman, etc. He was the one who had Aristu, as his minister, who fought a war against Darius, and who conquered his country after killing him. This was the very last person to have become known in the world by the name Sikandar, Alexander. Stories relating to him are comparatively more famous around the world, so some people have also equated him with the D. Hul-Qarnayn mentioned in the Quran. This is totally wrong, because this person was a fire-worshipping polytheist. As for the D. Hul-Qarnayn mentioned by the Quran, he may not be a prophet, for ulama have differed about his being a prophet. But everyone unanimously agrees that he was a righteous believer then. There is the textual authority of the Quran in its own right which bears testimony to it. Quoting Ibn Asakir, Hafiz ibn Kathir has given his complete family tree in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, which ascends to Sayyidina Ibrahim. He has said, this is the Sikandar who is recognized as the Greek, the Egyptian, and the Macedonian, who founded the city of Iskandaria, Alexandria, after his name, and the Roman calendar dates back to his time. The Sikandar D. Hul-Qarnayn appeared after a long passage of time from the first one. This time has been identified as being more than 2,000 years. He was the one who killed Darius, overpowered the Persian monarchy, and conquered their country. But this person was a polytheist, declaring him to be the one mentioned in the Quran, and is totally wrong. Ibn Kathir's own words are being quoted below. Sish 2. First of all, this research of Imam Ibn Kathir, the great scholar of hadith and history, helps remove a misconception. It clarifies that this Iskandar, who lived 300 years before Sayyid ibn Masih, who fought Darius and the Persian kings, and who is the founder of Alexandria, is not the D. Hul-Qarnayn mentioned in the Quran. This misconception seems to have affected some leading commentators as well. Abu Hayyan in Al-Bar, Al-Muhid, and Alam al-Lusi in Ra al-Mani have said that this very D. Hul-Qarnayn is the one mentioned in the Quran. The second point emerges from the sentence of Ibn Kathir, he was a prophet. It shows that, in the sight of Ibn Kathir, the weightier opinion was that he was a prophet. Although, according to the majority of scholars, the weightier opinion is what Ibn Kathir has himself reported on the authority Abi al-Tufail from Sayyidina Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, that he was neither a prophet nor an angel, rather was a right disbeliever. Therefore, some ulama have explained it by saying that the pronoun in he was reverts to al-Qadir and not to D. Hul-Qarnayn, which is closer in sense. This leaves us with a problem. The Quran mentions D. Hul-Qarnayn. Who was he? Which period of time did he belong to? Regarding this, sayings of ulama differ. According to Ibn Kathir, his time was the time of Sayyidina Ibrahim 2,000 years before the time of Alexander, the Greek, the Macedonian. Al-Qadir was his minister. Ibn Kathir has also reported from the early righteous elders in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya that D. Hul-Qarnayn went for Hajj traveling on foot. When Sayyidina Ibrahim found out about his arrival, he went out of Makkah to greet him. It is said that Sayyidina Ibrahim also prayed for him and passed out some good counsel to him. Al-Badi'a p. 108 v. 3. Tafsir Ibn Kathir reports from Atraki that he did tawaf with Sayyidina Ibrahim and offered sacrifice. And Abu al-Rayhan al-Birni has said in his book Al-Athar al-Baqiyah and Al-Qur'an al-Qawliyah that this Al-Qarnayn mentioned in the Quran is Abu Bakr ibn Sama ibn Umar ibn Ifrikis al-Amyari, the one who conquered the east and west of the earth. Taba al-Amyari al-Yamani has shown pride in his poetry that his grandfather, Al-Qarnayn, was a believer. He says Al-Qarnayn, my grandfather, was a believing Muslim, the king who conquered the non-believing earth. He reached the east and the west seeking means of power from the noble master. Abu Hayyan has reported this narrative in Al-Bar al-Mu'it. Ibn Kathir has also mentioned it in Al-Badi'a wa Nihaya. Ibn Kathir adds that this Al-Qarnayn is the first Taba, the title of the kings of Yemen. He was among the Tababiya, plural of Taba, of Yemen, and this is the same person who had ruled in favor of Sayyidina in the case of Bir Sa'ad. 7 Wells, Al-Badi'a p. 105 v. 2. In all these narratives, irrespective of the difference regarding the elements of his identity, his time period has been identified as that of Sayyidina Ibrahim. As for the detailed discussion relating to Al-Qarnayn provided by Maulana Hifz Rahman in his book Qasas al-Quran, it can be stated in a nutshell. It can be said that the Al-Qarnayn mentioned in the Quran is the king of Persia, who is called Chorus by the Jews, Cyrus by the Greeks, Gorush by the Persians, and Khosrow by the Arabs. His period is said to be the period of Daniel, from among the prophets of Bani Israel, much later than the time of Sayyidina Ibrahim. This brings it closer to the time of Iskandar al-Makhzumi, Alexander, the Macedonian, the killer of Darius, but the learned Maulana like Ibn Kathir has also strongly maintained that Alexander, the Macedonian, who had Aristotle as his minister, cannot be the Al-Qarnayn. The former was a fire-worshipping polytheist, while the later, a righteous believer. According to his research about the detailed description of Bani Israel falling into wrongdoing and rebellion twice, and of the respective punishment given to them twice, as in Surah Bani Israel, Al-Isra, the Qur'an says on the occasion of the first transgression of Bani Israel, we sent upon you some of our servants having strong aggressive power, who combed through the houses. Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 5. Here, the men with strong aggressive power are Nebuchadnezzar and his supporting troops, who killed 40,000, 70,000, and some narratives men from the Bani Israel in Beit al-Maqdis, while taking more than 100,000 of them driven like a flock of sheep to his city of Babel. After that, as regards the second statement of the Qur'an, then we gave you your turn to overpower them. Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 6. This event transpired at the hands of the same king, Khosrow, Chorus or Cyrus. He was a righteous believer. He confronted Nebuchadnezzar, secured the release of Bani Israel held as captives by him, and rehabilitated them back into Palestine. He even went on to resettle and repopulate the city of Beit al-Maqdis that was ransacked earlier, to the limit that he managed to have all treasures and major effects of Beit al-Maqdis carried away by Nebuchadnezzar from there returned back into the possession of Bani Israel. Thus this person proved to be the savior of Bani Israel, the Jews. It is likely that of the questions the Jews of Medina had set for the Quraysh of Makkah, which they would ask the Holy Prophet to test his prophethood, was this question about Al-Qarnayn, and that it had an underlying reason. This question was special since the Jews took him to be their savior and respected him. In short, Maulana Hifz Rahman has collected a sufficiently large number of evidences from the prophecies of the prophets of Bani Israel with reference to the present Old Testament, as well as from historical narratives, to present his research on this subject. Anyone who finds it imperative to proceed towards additional research may consult it. My purpose in reporting all these narratives was simply to bring into focus sayings of leading Muslim scholars, historians and commentators as they relate to the life and time of Al-Qarnayn. To decide as to whose saying is weightier and worthier out of these is not part of my objective. The reason is that things not claimed by the Qur'an nor explained by Hadith are things we have not been obligated to fix and clarify on our own, for that responsibility does not rest on our shoulders. Thus, whichever saying turns out to be regarded as more weighty, worthy, and sound, the aim of the Qur'an will stand achieved after all. Allah knows best. Let us now proceed to the explanation of the verses. Let us look at the first verse cited above. I shall now recite to you a narration about him, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 83. It prompts us to find out as to why the Holy Quran has elected to bypass the possible shorter expression dikrahu, his narrations, at this place, and has opted for 2 words, minhu dikra, some narration about him. A little reflection would reveal that these 2 words have been used as indicators. They tell us that the Quran has not promised to narrate the entire story of Al-Qarnayn in its historical setting. Instead, it has stated that it will mention it in part. This is evident from the use of the particle min and the nonation tanwin of dikra, a distinct feature of Arabic grammar. As for the historical debate relating to the name, lineage, and time period of Al-Qarnayn reported earlier, the Holy Quran has already said in advance that it has skipped it as something unnecessary.
Indeed, we established him upon the earth, and we gave him to everything a way.
The word sabab, used in and provided for him a way to everything, is employed in the Arabic lexicon to denote everything has to achieve an objective. It includes material instruments and resources, as well as knowledge, insight and experience, etc. Al-Bar al-Muhit, as for the expression, to everything, it means all things needed by a ruler to run the state system. The sense of the verse is that Allah Ta'ala had provided for the righteous king Al-Qarnayn practically everything needed at that time in order that he could maintain his just rule, establish universal peace, and extend his area of influence to other countries.
So he followed away.
Verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 85. So he followed away means that though the material means related to everything, even those that would facilitate his access to every region of the world, however, the first thing he did was to use his means to travel in the direction of the west.
Until, when he reached the setting of the sun, he found it as if setting in a spring of dark mud, and he found near it a people. Allah said, O Dhil Qarnayn, either you punish them or else adopt among them a way of goodness.
The statement in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 86, until when he reached where the sun sets, means that he reached the far limit towards the west beyond which there was no populated area. The word hamia in the succeeding phrase, into a miry spring, literally means dark marsh or mud, carrying the sense of water beneath which there is dark mud and which causes the water itself to appear black. As for the sense of his seeing the sun setting into such a spring, it means that an onlooker perceived it as setting into the spring because there was no habitation or dry land in sight. This is like being in an open field while the sun is setting, where as far as one can see there appears to be no mountain, tree, or structure. Naturally, one who looks at the sight would feel that the sun was sinking into the land mass. Said in the sentence which follows immediately was, and found near it a people, that is, near this dark spring, Al-Qarnayn found a people. The later part of the verse shows that these people were infidels. Therefore, it is said in the next verses, Allah Ta'ala gave Al-Qarnayn the choice of punishing them right away for their infidelity, or if he so wished, he could choose to deal with them benevolently by first asking them to consider the message of faith and bring them round to embrace it through dissemination of information and good counsel. After that, he could reward those who believe and punish those who do not. In response, Al-Qarnayn elected to go by the second option. He said that he would try to bring them to the straight path through good counsel and advice. Then he would punish those who stood by their infidelity and reward those who believed and did what was good. The statement, we said, O Al-Qarnayn, shows that Allah Ta'ala has himself said this addressing Al-Qarnayn. Now, if Al-Qarnayn is taken to be a prophet, there is no problem here. It will mean that it was said to him through the medium of revelation. And if his prophethood is not to be recognized, there is only one way to rationalize the statement, Now, we said, and the address Al-Qarnayn. This way could be to take this address to have been made to Al-Qarnayn through the medium of some prophet, as suggested by the reported presence of Al-Qadir with him. Then it is also possible that this revelation is just not the kind of wahi that is peculiar to a prophet or messenger of Allah. Maybe it is a wahi or revelation in the literal sense, like the word Awayna, we revealed or put into the heart, used in the Quran for the mother of Sayyidina Musa, though there is no probability of her being a prophet or messenger of Allah. But Abu Hayyan says in Al-Bar al-Muhit that the command given here to Al-Qarnayn is a command to punish and kill those people. No such command can be given without the authority of a revelation to a prophet. This action cannot be taken on the authority of kashf, illumination, and ilm, inspiration, nor can it be activated through any other source without the authority of wahi, revelation, to a nabi, prophet. For this reason, no probability other than the one being mentioned here is sound. Either D. Al-Qarnayn himself is taken to be a prophet, or that there may be a prophet present during his time and it is through him that D. Al-Qarnayn is addressed. And Allah knows best.
He said, "As for one who wrongs, we will punish him. Then he will be returned to his Lord, and he will punish him with a terrible punishment."
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 86, for the Tafsir.
But as for one who believes and does righteousness, he will have a reward of paradise, and we will speak to him from our command with ease.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 86, for the Tafsir.
Then he followed away.
Commentary. The Holy Quran does describe the state of the people D. Al-Qarnayn found living towards the east, meaning thereby that they were not accustomed to the use of ways and means like houses, tents and dresses to seek protection against the sun. But it does not mention anything about their faith and deeds, nor does it say what D. Al-Qarnayn did to them. However, it is obvious that these people too were infidels, and D. Al-Qarnayn handled them the way he had handled the people he had found in the west as mentioned earlier. But describing it again at this place was not considered necessary, since finding it out is also possible on the analogy of the previous event. As in Al-Bar al-Mu, it from Ibn Atiyah.
Until when he came to the rising of the sun, he found it rising on a people for whom we had not made against it any shield.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 89, for the Tafsir.
Thus, and we had encompassed all that he had in knowledge.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 89, for the Tafsir.
Then he followed away.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 89, for the Tafsir.
Until, when he reached a pass between two mountains, he found beside them a people who could hardly understand his speech.
Explanation of difficult words. The word used in the expression denotes what becomes a barrier against something. It may be a wall or mountain, and it may be natural or artificial. At this place, the word Azadain means two mountains that stood as a barrier against the intrusion of Yajuj and Majuj. But they still attacked through the pass in between the two mountains, and which was closed by D. Al-Qarnayn. The word Zubar al-Hadid is the plural of Zibra, which means sheets in the sense of pieces, fragments, or ingots of iron, which were to be used in the wall designed to block the pass, obviously a stronger device as compared to bricks and rocks. The word Azdafain signifies the two sides of a mountain facing each other. According to most commentators, the last word Kidr in verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 96 means molten copper. There are some others who have explained Kidr as molten iron or pewter. Al-Qudtu by the expression decoy used about the wall means what would crumble down to the level of the ground.
They said, "O Dhil Qarnayn, indeed Gog and Magog are great corrupters in the land. So may we assign for you an expenditure, that you might make between us and them a barrier?"
Commentary. The identity of Yajuj-Majuj and the location of the wall of D. Al-Qarnayn. A lot of absurd and strange things disseminated through Israeli narratives and historical stories have found currency to the extent that some commentators have also reported them in terms of their historical status, though they themselves do not find them trustworthy. The truth of the matter is that the Quran has mentioned it briefly, and the Holy Prophet has informed his community also about the details, as and when necessary. What has to be believed in as part of one's faith is limited to what has been covered in the Quran and Hadith. Beyond that, whatever historical and geographical information has been provided by commentators, Hadith experts and historians could be correct, or might as well prove incorrect. As for the variant sayings of historians from among those mentioned above, they are based on traces, analogies, and conjectures. Whether they are true or false, it simply does not affect what the Quran says. At this place, I would first quote a hadith which, according to respected hadith experts, are sound or trustworthy. After that, historical narratives will be taken up to the measure of their need in the present context. Hadith reports about Yajuj-Majuj. At least this much stands doubtlessly proved from the statements of Quran and Sunnah that Yajuj-Majuj are national entities from among human beings. They are the progeny of Sayyidina and knew very much like them, because so says the categorical statement, Nas, of the Quran, which means that all human beings surviving on the earth after the flood during the time of Sayyidina Nuh shall all be from among his progeny. Historical narratives converge on the fact that they are of the progeny of Yafet, son of Nuh, which is supported by a weak hadith as well. Regarding the rest of their antecedents, the hadith of Sayyidina Noah ibn Salman, may Allah be pleased with him, is most detailed and sound in authority. It has been reported in the Sahih of Muslim and in all books of hadith recognized for their authenticity. Hadith experts declare it to be sound and authentic. This hadith carries details concerning the appearance of Dajjal, Antichrist, the coming of Sayyidina Isa, and then the appearance of Yajuj Majuj. A translation of this entire hadith is being given below. Sayyidina Noah ibn Salman, may Allah be pleased with him, says that one morning the Holy Prophet mentioned Dajjal, Antichrist, and while doing that he said a few things which showed the low and negative aspect of his profile, such as his being one-eyed. Then, he also said a few things about him to the effect that his emergence was a matter of ominous trial, such as paradise and hell being with him, and other extraordinary aspects of his persona. His narration gripped us with such fear, as if Dajjal was lurking somewhere in the nearby groves of the date palms. When we presented ourselves before him in the evening, he read our confused inner condition and asked, "What is the matter with you? What did you conclude from what I had said?" We submitted. "You talked about Dajjal in the morning. Of things you said about him, some seemed to belittle the matter of his emergence, while you also said other things which seemed to highlight his matter to proportions of a great trial, to the extent that we thought he was present close to us in the groves of the date palms. Then he said, 'Not just the Dajjal. There are other trials I fear may afflict you more. That is, the trial of Dajjal is not as great as you have taken it to be. If he appears and I am among you, I shall confront him personally without you. And if he appears and I am not among you, everyone will try to confront him in terms of his courage. And Allah is in my absence, the guardian and protector of all Muslims. You will recognize him as a young man, hard curly hair, one eye protruding upwards, blind in the other, as in other narratives. And if I can liken him in this ugly profile with someone, it is Abd al-Azza ibn Katan, an ugly person from the tribe of Banu Khuzai during the Jahiliyyah. If a Muslim from among you runs into him, he should recite the initial verses of Surah Al-Kahf against him, which will keep him protected from Dajjal. Dajjal will emerge from the empty space between Syria and Iraq, creating havoc right and left. O servants of Allah, you then stay firm against him." We said, "Ya Rasul Allah, and how long will he tarry on the earth?" He said, 40 days. But the first day will be equal to 1 year, and the second day to 1 month, and the rest of the days equal to the usual. We said, "Ya Rasul Allah, so on that day, which will be equal to 1 year, shall we be offering the fire, timed, Salah for 1 day only?" He said, "No. You will, rather, go by estimating time and offering prayers for the whole year." We said, "Ya Rasul Allah, how fast will he be moving about the earth?" He said, "Fast like the cloud being followed by wind. Then he will pass by a people and ask them to rally round his false beliefs. They will believe in him and respond to his call. Then he will commission the clouds. They will start raining. He will order the earth. It will turn green and verdant, and herds of cattle will graze therein. And when they return in the evening, their humps shall be much higher than before, and their udders shall be full of milk, and their waists shall be plumb. Then Dajjal will pass by another people and invite them to his disbelief, but they will turn down his invitation. Losing hope when he goes away from them, these believers will be stricken with famine, and nothing of what once belonged to them will remain in their hands. And when Dajjal will walk by this wasteland, he will address it, saying, 'Bring your treasures out.' So its treasures will start following him like the honeybees follow their queen. Then Dajjal will call a man whose youth shall be in full bloom, strike him with a sword and cut him into 2 pieces, and the 2 pieces will be placed as far apart as the distance between an archer and his target. Then he will call him. He will come alive to Dajjal, beaming with joy over his feet. In the meantime, Allah Ta'ala will send down Al-Masih ibn Maryam, Sayyidina Isa. He will alight at the White Tower in the eastern part of Damascus, clad in 2 colored sheets, with both hands resting on the wings of angels. When he bows his blessed head, drops of water will drip down from there, as if one has just come out of the shower, and when he raises his head up, from it drop silvery globules like genuine pearls. Any disbeliever who breathes the air from his breath will die that very instant, and his breath will reach as far as reaches his glance. And he will look for him until he will overtake him at the gate of Lud, still there in Beit al-Maqdis by the same name, and kill him. After that, Isa ibn Maryam will come to people whom Allah protected from Dajjal. He will then touch their faces with compassion for them, and give them the good news of having high ranks in paradise. While he would still be in the same state, Allah will reveal to Isa, "Verily, I am going to send forth the kind of men from among servants belonging to me against whom no two hands will dare fight. So you assemble and take my servants to the sanctuary of Mount Tur," which Sayyidina Isa will do, and would send out Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and they will be seen hurtling down from every side. The first wave of them will pass by Bulhara Tabariya. They would drink out everything in it, and when others of them will pass by it and seeing it dry, they will say, "Surely in this there must have been water earlier in time." The Prophet of Allah, Isa, and his companions will take refuge on the Mount Tur. Other believers will find sanctuaries in their own fortified places. Food supplies will be there, but it would run short, whereupon the head of a bull will be considered better than 100 dinar. Then the Prophet of Allah, Isa, and his companions will turn to Allah and pray for the removal of their distress, which will be answered, and he will send an epidemic, worm in neck, and they will be annihilated en masse to the last person. Then the Prophet of Allah, Isa, and his companions will come down from the Mount of Tur and see not a span worth of land remaining unfilled with corpses, and, because of their decomposition, the place will be reeking with a strong stench. Seeing this state of affairs, the Prophet of Allah, Isa, and his companions will turn to Allah, praying for the removal of this distress as well, which Allah will answer. He will send birds with necks like the neck of a camel. They will haul these corpses and throw them at the place where Allah wills. According to some narratives, they will put them away into the sea. After that, Allah Ta'ala will send rains. No clay home in the villages, and no Bedouin tent in the desert will remain without it. Lands will be washed clean and left like mirror. Then Allah Ta'ala will tell the earth, "Grow your fruits and unravel the abundance of your blessings." And so it shall be, and such shall be the bliss of increase, that one pomegranate will suffice as food for a group of people. And its shell will be used to make canopies for protection against the sun, and milk will be so blessed as to suffice for a large number of people. Milk from one cow will be enough for everyone in a tribe, and milk from one goat will be adequate for a whole clan. After 40 years of this period of extraordinary abundance, peace and protection, when the time due for Qiyamah will draw near, Allah Ta'ala will send a pleasant wind which will cause their armpits to be benumbed, and the soul of every believer and every Muslim will be taken away. Left there will be the worst among human beings, the wicked and the disbelieving ones, who will indulge in shame and outrage on the earth like donkeys. And it is against them that the hour will stand activated. As for the story of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, the narration of Sayyidina Abd al-Rahman ibn Yazid, may Allah be pleased with him, deals with it in greater detail. It says that once they passed by Buhara Tabariya, a judge and my judge will climb Jabal al-Qamar, a mountain from among the mountains of Beit al-Maqdis, and say, "We have killed whoever there was on the earth. Come, let us now kill whoever there is out in the skies." So they will shoot their arrows towards the sky, and Allah will make their arrows return back to them smeared with blood, so that those dim-witted people are pleased with the prospect that they have done away with whoever there was in the skies. About the story of Dajjal, the narration of Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, adds that Dajjal will stay away from al-Madinah al-Munawwara. When it will not be possible for him to reach even the link roads leading to it, he will come to a sailing tract of land close to Madinah. At that time, a man will come out to confront him, and this man will be the best of men at that time, or among the best of men. Addressing him, he will say, "I am certain that you are the Dajjal about whom the Holy Prophet had told us." Hearing this, Dajjal will start saying, "Tell me, O people, if I kill this man, then make him alive. Will you still doubt the thing about my being God?" They said, "No." So he will kill him and then bring him back to life, whereupon he will tell Dajjal, "By Allah, now I have become more certain that you are the Dajjal." Hence Dajjal would want to kill him all over again, but he will remain unable to enforce it. Sahih Muslim, according to a narration of Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, appearing in the Sahih of al-Bukhari and Muslim, the Holy Prophet said, "On the day of Qiyamah, Allah Ta'ala will ask Sayyidina Adam, raise the hell, bound from your progeny. He will wonder, my Lord, who are they? Then the divine command will go forth that 999 of every 1,000 are hell, bound, with only one bound to go to paradise." Scared, the noble Sahaba asked, "Ya Rasulullah, who from among us shall be the one bound to go to paradise?" Thereupon he said, "Do not worry, because out of these 999 hell-bound people, there will be only one from among you, while, ratio-wise, there will be 1,000 from among the Ya'juj Ma'juj." According to a narration of Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, in the Mustadrak of Al-Hakim, the Holy Prophet said that Allah Ta'ala divided all human beings into 10 parts. 9 of these belong to Ya'juj Ma'juj, while the remaining 1 part covers the human beings of the whole world. Ra'al-Ma'ani, after having quoted these narrations in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya, Ibn Kathir has written that it tells us that the number of Ya'juj Ma'juj is significantly higher than the entire human population. According to a narration of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah appearing in the Musnad of Ahmad and Abu Dawud with sound chains of authority, the Holy Prophet said that Isa will live on the earth for 40 years after his descension. As for the narration in Muslim which puts this duration of stay at 7 years, it has been rated as less in strength for having some unapparent meaning, marja or mawul, by Hafiz and Fath al-Bari, who has declared the very period of 40 years as correct. Then there are clarifications in a hadith which report that this whole period will be marked with peace and blessings. Absolutely no malice and hostility will exist among people, none even between any 2 of them. Muslim and Ahmad al-Bukhari reports from Sayyidina Abu Sid al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said that the Hajj and Umrah of Baytullah will continue even after the emergence of Ya'juj Ma'juj. Tafsir Majari al-Bukhari and Muslim report from al-Mu'minin, Sayyida Zayn bint Jahsh, may Allah be pleased with him, that one day the Holy Prophet woke up from sleep with his blessed face red, while he was saying, La ilaha illallah. Alas for Arabia! Evil is drawing near. Today the part of the wall of Ya'juj Ma'juj has opened up like this, and he made a ring by joining the tips of his thumb and index finger to indicate the size of the hole in the wall. Al-Mu'minin, Sayyida Zayn, may Allah be pleased with him, says that following his statement, we submitted, Ya Rasul Allah, is our destruction possible even when we have righteous people among us? He said, yes, it is, particularly when evil, Qabeth, abounds. Similar reports appear in the 2 Sahihs from Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, as in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya of Ibn Kathir, that a hole was made into the wall of Ya'juj Ma'juj to the measure shown in the hadith could be taken in the real sense, and also in a figurative one, which would indicate the weakening of the wall made by Dhul-Qarnayn. Ibn Kathir, Abu Hayyan, the Musnad of Ahmad, Tirmidhi, he and Ibn Majah report from a narration of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet said, Ya'juj Ma'juj keep digging through the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. Doing it every day, they reach the farthest part of this iron wall, so close as would make the light on the other side become visible to them. But at that point, they say that they would dig all the way through it the next day and return. However, Allah Ta'ala makes it as strong as it was all over again. Then comes the next day, and they start anew to dig through it. This cycle of their effort to dig and demolish, and that of mending and fortifying from Allah's side, will continue until such time up to which Allah Ta'ala intends to hold back Ya'juj Ma'juj. And when He intends to release them, they will dig, reach the farthest limit, and say, if Allah wills, we shall go across it tomorrow. By making their effort dependent on the name and will of Allah, they will have the tawfiq to succeed. So, when they return the next day as usual, they will find the remaining non-dug portion of the wall as they had left it, and this they will demolish and go across. Tirmidhi has reported this narration on the authority of Abu Anna, Qatada, Abu Rafi, Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, in that order, and then he has said, unfamiliar. We do not know it except from this source. Ibn Kathir has also reported this narration in his Tafsir, and then he has this to say, its chains of narrators are good and strong, but its text in the matter of its ascension, the effort to raise the channel of transmission up to attribute it the Holy Prophet, is not supported by stronger sources. Ibn Kathir comments on this hadith in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. If it is held to be correct that this hadith is not marfu, traceable in ascending order to the Holy Prophet, instead is a narration from Kad al-Labar, then it becomes clear that it is not worthy of trust. Now there is another possibility. The narration is regarded to be free from any error made by the narrator. It is given the status of the very saying of the Holy Prophet, then it would mean that this action of digging the wall by Ya'juj Ma'juj will start at the time when the hour of their emergence draws close. And as for the statement of the Quran, that is, no hole can be made in this wall, it refers to the time when Dhul-Qarnayn had made it. This leaves no contradiction here. Moreover, it could also be said that breaking the hole into the wall means a hole which goes all the way through it, and this narration states it clearly that this hole does not go all the way through it. Al-Bidayah p. 12b. 2 in Faf al-Basri, may Allah have mercy on him, Hafiz ibn Hajar has reported this hadith with reference to Abd ibn Humayd and ibn Hibban as well, and said that they all narrate from Qatada, and some of their narrators are the authorities of the Sahih al-Bukhari. Then, he has not entertained any doubt about the hadith being rated as mares. Ascending to the Holy Prophet, then he says with reference to Ibn al-Arabi that this hadith contains 3 divine signs, that is, miracles, that Allah Ta'ala did not let their minds think of the alternative of continuing their digging operation round the clock, including the day and night both. If so, it would have not been at all difficult for a people with so many of them to work in shifts of day and night with specified assignment of duties. That their minds were turned away from taking the option of scaling over the wall by using artifices and devices. Although from a narration of Wahb ibn Munabi, it becomes clear that these people tilled the land, which also yielded fruits, and they used instruments of many kinds in this process. It should have not been difficult for them under these circumstances to assemble together the means of scaling the wall. That for such a long time it never occurred to them that they should have said, Inshallah, if Allah wills, and that this statement will issue forth through their speech only when the time of their emergence will come close. Ibn al-Arabi has said that this hadith also tells us that there are people among the Ya'juj-Ma'juj who believe in the existence of Allah and in His will. Then, it is also possible that Allah Ta'ala may cause this statement to issue forth through their speech without having any belief, and they find their job all done with its barakah. Ashratas, Sabayas, dated Muhammad, p. 154. But what is obvious here is that they too have received the call of the blessed prophets. Otherwise, according to the textual authority of the Qur'an, Nas, they should not be subjected to the punishment of Jahannam, and it is not our way to punish anyone unless we send a messenger. Surah Al-Isra, Ayah 15. This tells us that the invitation to believe has reached them too, but they chose to stick by their denial. However, there will also be some people among them who would be subscribing to the view that Allah exists, and that He has intention and will, though having this much of a belief is not sufficient for man or faith, unless there is the essential faith in prophethood and hereafter. However, the saying of Inshallah, if Allah wills, despite kufr, disbelief, is not a far-out possibility. Conclusions drawn from the narrations of hadith. That which stands proved about Ya'juj-Ma'juj from the statements of the Holy Prophet as in the hadith cited above is given below. Ya'juj-Ma'juj are the progeny of Say, in and new like the rest of human beings. The majority of hadith experts and historians identify them as the progeny of Japheth, the son of Nu. And it is also obvious that the progeny of Japheth, son of Nu, had spread itself out far and wide among different tribes, nationalities, and many populated areas between the period of Sayd ibn Nub and that of Al-Qarnayn. Thus, it is not necessary that the races known as Ya'juj-Ma'juj were pinned down as a whole exclusively behind the wall of Al-Qarnayn. There must have been some of their tribes and nationalities living on the other side of the wall of Al-Qarnayn. However, it can be said that the savage killers and destroyers among them were restrained through the wall of Al-Qarnayn. Historians refer to them generally as Turks, Manghul, or Mongols. But from among these, the name of Ya'juj-Ma'juj applies only to the savage, uncivilized, bloodthirsty tyrants who remained untouched by civilization. The Turks, Manghuls, or Mongols who became civilized stand unsubstantiated by this name. The number of Ya'juj-Ma'juj is several times higher than the number of the human beings of the whole world, at least at the ratio of 1 to 10. Hadith 2. The tribes and nationalities of Ya'juj-Ma'juj stopped from crossing over to the other side of the wall of Al-Qarnayn will remain so restrained right through the close of the 0 hour of the last day of Qiyamah. The time destined for their emergence will be preceded by the appearance of Mahdi and Masih, and that of Dajjal, the Antichrist. They will be released exactly after Isa has descended and has killed Dajjal. Hadith 1. At the time Ya'juj-Ma'juj are to be released, the wall of Al-Qarnayn will crumble down all level to the ground. Verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 98. The merciless hordes of Ya'juj-Ma'juj would present in spectacle when, coming down from the mountain slopes all simultaneously, the speed of their descent would give the impression that they are sliding down to the ground en masse. These countless savage humans will hit the whole earth and its population. No one would be able to stand up against the killing and plunder by them. The Apostle of Allah, Sayyidina Isa, will, under divine command, take refuge on Mount Tur along with his believing companions. People in other habitations of the world will seek asylum in available safe places. When supplies run out, necessities of life will become highly expensive. As for the rest of human population, these savages will finish them off and lick out their rivers. Hadith 1. Then, it will be through the prayer of Say, Sayyidina Isa and his companions, these countless locust-like peoples will be destroyed simultaneously. The earth will be covered up with their dead bodies, and the stench from which would make human rehabilitation on the earth difficult. Hadith -1, then, it will be through the prayer of Sayyidina Isa and his companions once again that their dead bodies would be disposed of into the sea or made to disappear altogether, and the whole earth will be washed clean through a universal rain. Hadith -1, after that there shall come a reign of peace lasting for nearly 40 years. The earth will open the gates of its blessings. No one will remain poor and needy. No one will hurt or harass anyone. Peace and comfort shall prevail universally. Hadith -3, during this period of peace, the Hajj and Umrah of Baytullah will continue. Hadith -4, as for the death of Sayyidina Isa and his burial in the sacred mausoleum, it already stands proved from the narrations of Hadith. This too will transpire when he will travel to Hajj. As for Hajj or Umrah, as reported by Muslim from Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, explanatory note. After that, he will die in Al-Madinah Al-Tayba and buried in the sacred mausoleum. During the later period of the life of the Holy Prophet, he was shown a dream activated through a revelation, wali, that a hole had opened up in the wall of Al-Qarnayn, which he declared to be a sign of impending evil for Arabia. Some hadith experts, Al-Muhaddithin, had interpreted the opening of a hole in this wall as real. Some others have taken it figuratively in the sense that this wall of Al-Qarnayn has become weak. The time of the emergence of Ya'juj-Ma'juj has come close, and its effects will show up in the form of Arab decline. Allah knows best. After his descent, he will stay on the earth for 40 years. Hadith -3, earlier than him, the period of Mahdi will also be that of 40 years, part of which will feature the confluence and cooperation of both. In his book Ashrat al-Sa'a p. 145, Sayyid Sharif Barzenji has said that the period of Sayyidina Isa will follow the killing of Dajjal and the peace prevailing thereafter and extend to 40 years. This will make his total stay in the world for a period of 45 years. And it has been mentioned on page that Mahdi will appear 30+ years before Sayyidina Isa, and the total period credited to him will be that of 40 years. Thus the presence of the two blessed souls shall coincide for a number of 5 or 7 years, and both their periods will be marked by a reign of justice throughout the world. The earth will open up the gates of its blessings, neither will anyone remain poor, nor will anyone bear malice and hostility against anyone else. Of course, the great trial of the appearance of Dajjal will hit the whole world during the later period of Mahdi, with the exception of Makkah, Medina, Beit al-Maqdis, and the Mount of Tur. This trial will be the greatest as compared to the rest of the trials the world has faced. Dajjal and his disorder will last for 40 days only. But out of these 40 days, the first day will be that of 1 year, the second day that of 1 week, and the rest of days will be like they usually are. One way this can happen is that these days are really made to be that long because, during those later times, nearly all events will be extraordinary and miraculous in nature. Then, it is also possible that the days and nights keep alternating as they usually do. But it stands proof from Hadith that Dajjal would be a great magician. When so, it is also possible that, under the spell of his magic, common people remain unable to notice this revolutionary change in the alternation of days and nights and continue seeing this phenomena as nothing but one usual day. As for the injunction in Hadith of performing Salah during that day, on the estimated analogy of usual days, it also seems to support the assumption that the days and nights would be changing really, but people would not realize it cognitively. Therefore, in this day of 1 year, the order given was to perform Salah for 360 days. Otherwise, had the day been really 1 day only, the rules of the Sharia would have required only 5 salahs as obligatory for 1 day as such. In short, the total period of Dajjal will have 40 such days. After that, Sayyidina Isa will descend, kill the Dajjal, and put an end to the disorder created by him. However, quite close to that the Ya'juj-Ma'juj will emerge, unleashing another spate of disorder, pillage, and killing. But the period of their presence will not go beyond a few days, when they too will be destroyed all simultaneously, as a result of the prayer of Sayyidina Isa. In short, there will be 2 ominous trials of Dajjal and Ya'juj-Ma'juj during the later period of Sayyidina Mahdi and the early period of Sayyidina Isa, which will shake the people of the entire earth upside down. Before and after these counted few days, however, the whole world will experience justice, peace, and blessings. During the period of Sayyidina Isa, there will remain on the earth no creed and religion other than Islam. The earth will start sending forth its hidden treasures. No one will remain poor and needy. Even beasts and poisonous life forms will not hurt anyone. An essential point of guidance. As far as the information given above about the Ya'juj-Ma'juj and the wall of the Dhul-Qarnayn, these have been communicated to the Muslim Ummah by the Quran and the Ahadith of the Holy Prophet. Believing in it as such is necessary and opposition impermissible. Now there remains the area of geographical and racial investigation as to questions like, where is the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn located? Who are these people called Ya'juj-Ma'juj? Where do they live now? Here it can be said that no Islamic aqidah, article of faith, depends on knowing this, nor does the understanding of any verse of the Quran hinge on it. But the religious scholars of the Muslim Ummah, only in order to answer the absurdities dished up by antagonists and to provide additional insight, have discussed this subject in details. Part of it is being reported here. Views of Muslim scholars. In his Tafsir, Al-Qurtubi has reported from us, study that one of the 22 tribes of Ya'juj-Ma'juj were shut off by the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. One of their tribes was left out on the inner side of the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. They are Turks. After that, Al-Qurtubi says that the sayings of the Holy Prophet about the Turks resemble the Ya'juj-Ma'juj, and that the incidents of a war between them and Muslims during the later times appears in a hadith of the Sahih of Muslim. At present, he continues, a large number of Turk people are arrayed against Muslims. Only Allah knows their exact number, and only He can save Muslims from their evil. It appears as if they are the Ya'juj-Ma'juj, or at least are their forerunners. Al-Qurtubi p. 58b. 11. Al-Qurtubi belongs to the 6th century of Hijra, when the Tatar onslaught came and destroyed the Islamic Caliphate. This great upheaval is well known in Islamic history, and the Tatars are reputed to be from the Mongol or Mongol Turks. But as for Al-Qurtubi, he has simply said that they resembled the Ya'juj-Ma'juj and could be their forerunners. He has not identified the havoc caused by the Tatars as the emergence of the Ya'juj-Ma'juj, which is one of the signs of the coming of the last day of Qiyamah. The reason is that the hadith of the Sahih of Muslim mentioned above makes it clear that this emergence will come to pass after the descent of Sayyidina Isa during his period. Therefore, Allama al-Alusi has, in his Tafsir al-Ma'ani, strongly refuted the position of those who have taken the Tatars as the Ya'juj-Ma'juj. According to him, the very thought is a flagrant error and certainly in opposition to the textual authority of hadith. However, this much he too said that this havoc, no doubt, did resemble the havoc to be caused by the Ya'juj-Ma'juj. Rab p. 44b. 16. It proves that the view of some contemporary historians who take modern Russia or China or both as the Ya'juj and Ma'juj would have not been really wrong. However, the condition is that they should have meant by the same things said by Al-Qurtubi and Al-Alusi, that is, the upheaval caused by them resembled that of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, but declaring it to be the very emergence of the Ya'juj-Ma'juj, something reported in the Quran and hadith as signs of Qiyamah, and which was due to come after the descent of Sayyidina Isa, is absolutely wrong. The approach is erroneous, and it betrays a rejection of the textual authority, nusus of hadith. Famous historian Ibn Khaldun has taken up this subject in the prolegomena of his history. As part of his description of the 6th kingdom, he has alluded to the geographical location of the Ya'juj-Ma'juj and the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn as follows. Inhabiting towards the west, in the 9th part of the 7th kingdom, there are tribes of Turks called Kinjak, Kiptak or Kipchak as in Bertel, Spuler, and Cherkess, Circassians, the Caucasian people, as in Spuler. The eastern side is populated by the Ya'juj-Ma'juj. In between the two, Mount Caucasus draws the line of demarcation. It has been mentioned earlier that it begins from Al-Bahr al-Miu, located in the east of the 4th kingdom, and goes up to the northern end of the kingdom. Then, receding away from Al-Bahr al-Miu, it continues in a northwestern direction and enters the 9th part of the 5th kingdom. From here, it reverts to its first direction until it enters the 9th part of the 7th kingdom. Once it reaches there, it goes from the south in a northwestern direction. Located in between this mountain range is the Wall of Alexander. It is situated in the middle of the 9th part of the 7th kingdom, as we have identified earlier, and the Quran too informs us about it. In his book of geography, Abdullah ibn Qur Asbi has reported the dream of the Abbasi Khalifa, Wahid Billah, in which he had seen that the wall had opened up. As a result, he woke up all upset and sent his emissary, Salam, on a fact-finding mission. On his return, he reported the condition and distinct features of this very wall. Muqaddimah ibn Khaldun p. 79, that Wahid Billah, the Abbasi Caliphate, sent an observer group to investigate the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn, and that it did return after having made the investigation has been mentioned by Ibn Kathir too in Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya. Also said there is that this wall has been made in iron with huge locked gates, and is located towards the northeast. After narrating the event, Tafsir Kabir and Al-Tabari add, one who comes back after having seen the wall reaches the barren fields facing Samarkand in the company of guides. Tafsir Kabir b. 5p. 513, the great scholar of Islam and my revered teacher, Maulana Anwar Shah Kashmiri, has mentioned Yajud Majud and the Wall of Dhul-Qarnayn in his book, though it is an adjunct of his book yet. Whatever he has mentioned there measures up to the highest level of investigation and tradition. He said, to remain protected against the plunder and devastation by mischievous and savage human beings, walls have been built on the earth, not simply at one place, but at several places. Different kings have built these at various places during different ages. Most famous and the largest among these is the Great Wall of China. Its length given by Abu Hayyan al-Andalusi, the royal historian of the Iranian court, is 1,200 miles. It was founded by Faifur, the Emperor of China, and that the date of its inception goes back to 3,460 years after the advent of Sayyidina Adam, and also that the Mughal people, Mongol or Mongkol, call this Great Wall Atkiwa and the Turks Berkwaka. Then he has acknowledged that several walls of this nature are found at other places as well. Our leading fellow servant of the faith, Maulana Hifz Rahman Sivori, may he rest in peace, has given a well-documented historical detail elaborating the statement of Sheikh Kashmiri in his well-known book, Qasas al-Quran. A gist is given below. The range of the evil savagery of Yajuj Majuj was so extensive that, on the one hand, the people of southern Caucasia suffered from their tyrannical onslaughts, while on the other hand, the inhabitants of Tibet and China also served as sitting targets of their savagery. It was to stay safe from these very Yajuj Majuj that protective walls were built at various places during different ages. The largest among these is the Great Wall of China mentioned earlier. The second wall is located near Bukhara and Termidhi in Central Asia. It is situated at a place called Darban, meaning blocked passage. This wall was there during the time of the famous Mughal king, Tamerlane Timur the Lame. Tamerlane, the German confidant of the Roman king Celeberger, has mentioned him in his book. Kalafchu, the emissary of Castile, the king of Andalusia, has also referred to him in his travelogue. When he presented himself as the emissary of his king before Tamer, he had passed by this spot. He writes that the wall of Bab al-Hadid, Iron Gate, is situated on the route coming from Mosul, and which lies in between Samarkand and India. From Tafsir Jawahir al-Quran by Al-Tantawi, v. 9p. 198. The third wall is located in Dagestan in Russia. This too is famous by the name of Darban, blocked passage, and Bab al-Abwab, the gate of gates, Yaqut al-Hamawi in Mujam al-Buldan, Al-Idrisi in Al-Jagray, Faya and Bustani in Daratol. Ma'er have described these in great details, the gist of which is as follows. In Dagestan, Darban is a Russian city. It is situated on the western shore of Barkadir, Caspian Sea, latitude north and longitude east. It is also called Darban Nashirwan. Another name for it, Bab al-Abwab, is also famous. The fourth wall is located in the higher parts of Caucasia towards the west of this very Bab al-Abwab, where, in between two mountains, there is a pass well known as the Dario Pass. This fourth wall is right here and is known as the Wall of Kaf, has or Mount Koka or Kokaf, Caucasus, about it, Bustani writes, and close to it, the Wall of Bab al-Abwab, there is another wall which goes on extending towards the west. In all likelihood, this may have been built by the people of Faris, Persia, as a measure of defense against the northern Berbers. Since the identity of its founder was not authentically known, some people have attributed it to Alexander, while some others have ascribed it to Cyrus and Nashirwan. And Yaqut says that it has been constructed with molten copper. Darat al-Ma'arif v. 7p. 651. Mujam al-Buldan v. 8p. 9. Since all these walls are in the north and have been built for a single need, therefore difficulties have come up in determining as to which of these is the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. And the major confusion has showed up in the case of the last two walls, because the name of both the places is Darband, and there is a wall also present at both. Out of the four walls mentioned above, the Great Wall of China is the longest and the oldest. About it, no one says that it is the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. Then, instead of being in the north, it is in the far east, and that it is in the north is clear as indicated by the Quran al-Karim. Now, the thing revolves between the remaining three walls which happen to be but in the north. Out of these, speaking generally, Historians Masudi, Istakari, Hamawi, and others identify the wall located in Dagestan or at Darband in the Caucasian territory of Bab al-Abwab by the Caspian Sea as the Wall of Dhul-Qarnayn. Historians who have called the wall and Darband of Bukhara and Termi as being the Wall of Dhul-Qarnayn have, most likely, been confused because of the common factor of the word Darband. At this point, its location stands nearly fixed. Now, it can be said that it is situated in Bab al-Abwab by the Darband of Caucasia in the territory of Dagestan, or is located even at a higher altitude of the mountain of Kafkaz or Kaf Caucasus. As for a wall being there on both these places is a fact proved by historians. By way of further refinement in between the two probabilities given above, my revered teacher Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Anwar Shah has in Aqidatul Islam given preference to the wall of Kafkaz Caucasus as being the wall built by Dhul-Qarnayn. Aqidatul Islam p. 297. The wall of Dhul-Qarnayn, is it still there? Will it be there until Qiyamah? Or has it disintegrated? Historians and geographers of Europe do not recognize the presence of any of these northern walls in our time, nor do they admit that the passage of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj is still blocked. On that basis, some Muslim historians have also started saying and writing that the event of the emergence of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj mentioned in the Quran and Hadith has already taken place. Some of them have declared the great onslaught of Tatars in the 6th century Hira as being the emergence of Ya'juj and Ma'juj mentioned by the Quran and Hadith. Still others have found it sufficient to equate the contemporary rise of the Russian, Chinese, and European peoples with the emergence of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj and have thereby closed the case conveniently. But all this is, as stated earlier with reference to Ra'al, not any totally wrong. To say that the particular emergence of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj mentioned by the Quran was a sign of Qiyamah translates as a denial of Sahih Hadith. The Sahih Hadith of Muslim narrated by Al-Nas ibn Salman and others says that Qiyamah will come after 3 events have taken place. These events will be the emergence of Dajjal, Antichrist, the descent of Sayyidina Isa, and the killing of Dajjal. How can it be said that it has already come to pass? The reason is obvious. The Dajjal has not emerged. Sayyidina Isa has yet to descend, and there is no doubt about it. Nevertheless, it is not counter to any textual authority, pass of Quran and Sunnah, that the wall of Dhul-Qarnayn may have disintegrated now and some people from among the Ya'juj-Ma'juj may have come on this side. However, this will remain subject to the condition that one admits that their last and the most massive onslaught, which will prove to be the destroyer of the entire human population, has not come yet. In fact, it will come after the great manifestation of the signs of Qiyamah mentioned earlier, that is, the appearance of the Dajjal and the descent of Sayyidina Isa, etc. The considered view of Allama Kashmiri, may Allah have mercy on him, in this matter is that the European assertion that they have scanned the whole world and have found no trace of this wall bears no weight. First of all, the reason is that they themselves have clearly admitted that, despite having reached the zenith of travel and research, there remain many forests, rivers, and islands about which they had been unable to collect information. Then, not too remote is the probability that the wall, despite being present, may now have taken the form of a mountain because of mountains crumbling and joining together. But no absolute textual authority mass contradicts the fact of this wall disintegrating before Qiyamah, or of some people from the Ya'juj-Ma'juj crossing over to this side by taking some distant and long, winding route. The strongest argument put forward in favor of this wall of Dhul-Qarnayn surviving until the last day of Qiyamah is based on the statement of the Quran. Here, Dhul-Qarnayn says, when the promise of my Lord will materialize, that is, the time will come for the Ya'juj-Ma'juj to appear, Allah Ta'ala will make this wall crumble down to ground level. The proponents of this argument have interpreted the words, the promise of my Lord, in this verse in the sense of Qiyamah, the last day, although the words of the Quran are not definite and categorical about it. The reason it is that the Quranic words, the promise of my Lord, carry a very clear sense of their own. So what is meant here is that the arrangement made by Dhul-Qarnayn to block the entry of the Ya'juj-Ma'juj may not necessarily remain there as is, forever. When Allah Ta'ala wills to have the passage open to them, this wall will lie demolished. Therefore, it is not necessary that it would happen precisely close to the Qiyamah. Accordingly, all commentators have mentioned both probabilities in the sense of the promise of my Lord. It appears in Tafsir al-Muhit, and the promise has the probability that meant by it is the day of Qiyamah, and that meant by it is the time of the emergence of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj. One way of verifying this could be the eventuality that the wall lies demolished, the passage has opened up and the onslaught of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj has begun. It does not matter whether its beginning is taken to be from the havoc caused by the Tatar in the 6th century Hera, or from the present ascendancy of the peoples of Europe, Russia, and China. But it is evident that the aggressive emergence of these civilized peoples, something taking place in a constitutional and legal framework, cannot be classed as rank disorder, which is being particularly pointed out by the Qur'an and Hadith. The anatomy of havoc given there is that it will unfold in the form of such a magnitude of merciless bloodshed and devastation that it will eliminate the entire human population. Rather, the outcome will, then, be that some nationalities of these very Ya'juj-Ma'juj had turned civilized after having moved to this side. They certainly turned out to be the source of great disorder and trial for Islamic countries. But till now, their savage counterparts who know nothing but bloodshed have not come to this side as destined, and the majority of them are of that kind. These will emerge very close to Qiyamah. The source of the second argument is the Hadith of Tirmidhi and the Musnad of Ahmad, where it is said that the Ya'juj-Ma'juj keep digging this wall every day. But first of all, Ibn Kathir has declared this hadith to be ma'lul, defective despite its apparently correct chain of narrators. Secondly, in the hadith itself, there is no clarification that the day Ya'juj and Ma'juj will cross over the wall by virtue of saying, Inshallah, the thing will happen necessarily close to the Qiyamah. Then, the hadith does not provide any proof either that the whole lot of the Ya'juj and Ma'juj will remain restrained behind the wall. Even if some groups or nationalities from among them were to come to the side by taking some distant and long, winding route, it will still not be too far out in eventuality in the presence of powerful modern ships. In fact, some historians have mentioned that the Ya'juj-Ma'juj have found the way to reach the side via long sea travel. If so, the hadith does not contradict that either. In short, there is no clear and definite proof in the Qur'an and Sunnah that goes on to establish that the wall of Al-Qarnayn will remain standing right through the last day of Qiyamah, or their elementary and insignificant attacks against the human population on this side will not be possible. However, in all certainty, the time of that horrific and devastating onslaught which will destroy the entire human population will be but close to the Qiyamah, as has been mentioned repeatedly. To sum up, it can be said that based on the textual authority, nusus of the Qur'an and Sunnah, it is not possible to give an absolute verdict that the wall against the Ya'juj and Ma'juj has disintegrated, leaving the passage open. Nor can it be said that, according to the Qur'an and Sunnah, it is necessary that it survives up to the Qiyamah. Both probabilities exist. And pure and high is Allah, who knows reality best.
He said, "That in which my Lord has established me is better than what you offer. But assist me with strength. I will make between you and them a dam."
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 94, for the Tafsir.
Bring me sheets of iron, until, when he had leveled them between the two mountain walls, he said, "Blow with bellows," until when he had made it like fire, he said, "Bring me, that I may pour over it molten copper."
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 94, for the Tafsir.
So Gog and Magog were unable to pass over it, nor were they able to effect in it any penetration.
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 94, for the Tafsir.
Dhul-Qarnayn said, "This is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes, he will make it level, and ever is the promise of my Lord true."
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 94, for the Tafsir.
And we will leave them that day surging over each other, and then the horn will be blown, and we will assemble them in one assembly.
Commentary. As for the pronoun of the word Badahim in, and on that day, we will leave them Ya'juj and Ma'juj surging over one another. It is obvious that it reverts back to Ya'juj-Ma'juj. Then, as for their condition described therein surging over one another, it is also obvious that this will be their state when the passage lies open for them, and they will be hastening their way from the hilly heights down to the ground. Commentators have suggested other probabilities as well. The pronoun in, Fadamanayam, then we shall gather them together, is reverting back to the creation at large, human beings and the jinn. The sense is that the entire creation of human beings and the jinn who have been obligated with the precepts of the Sharia Muqallah shall be gathered together on the plains of resurrection, Al-Hashr.
And we will present hell that day to the disbelievers on display.
See Surah Al-Kahf, ayah 99, for the Tafsir.
Those whose eyes had been within a cover from my remembrance, and they were not able to hear.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 99 for the Tafsir.
Then do those who disbelieve think that they can take my servants instead of me as allies? Indeed, we have prepared hell for the disbelievers as a lodging.
Commentary. According to Tafsir al-Muhit, in the first verse Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 102, then the disbelievers deem that they take my servants as patrons beside me. There is an elision, hadf, in the text at this place. That is, as such, it would mean, do these disbelieving people who have taken my servants instead of me as the objects of their worship and the dispensers of their matters and problems think that this makeshift arrangement made by them would bring them some benefit and they would enjoy it? This is a form of interrogative meant for negation or disapproval. In short, it means that such thinking is wrong, a mark of ignorance. The word ibadi, my servants, used here means angels and the particular prophets whom the people of the world worshipped, taking them as partners in the pristine divinity of Allah as Sayyidina Uzair and Sayyidina Masih. Those who worshipped angels were some Arabs. As for those who ascribed partners to Allah, the Jews and Christians both did it. The Jews did it in respect of Sayyidina Uzair and the Christians in respect of Sayyidina Isa. Therefore, meant here by Allahina kafaru, those who disbelieved in this verse are these very groups of disbelievers. Some commentators have taken ibadi, my servants, at this place to mean shaitans. In that case, those who disbelieved would mean disbelievers who worship the jinn and shaitans. Some other commentators have taken as ibadi, my servants, at this place in the general sense of something created under mastery, which becomes inclusive of all false objects of worship, idols, fire and stars. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanhavi, may Allah have mercy on him, has referred to this aspect in the summary of his Tafsir Bayan al-Quran while explaining servants as subjects. However, the first explanation given above has been rated as weightier in Al-Bar al-Muhit and other tafsirs. Allah knows best. The word awliya is the plural of waliyi. This word is used in the Arabic language to carry several meanings. At this place, it means one who gets things done, resolves matters, fulfills needs, which is the particular attribute of the true object of worship. The purpose thereby is to take them as objects of worship.
Say, O Muhammad, shall we believers inform you of the greatest losers as to their deeds?
Who are those referred to as the greatest losers in respect of their deeds? At this place, the first two verses Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 101 to 102 are, in terms of their general sense, inclusive of every individual or group that would put in a lot of effort in some deeds taking them to be good. But with Allah, their effort is ruined, and their deed wasted. Al-Qurtubi said that the situation is caused due to two things. 1. Corruption in belief. 2. Hypocrisy. It means that a person whose very belief and faith is not correct, no matter how good he is in his deeds and how painstaking in his effort, will find all this useless and wasted in the hereafter. Similarly, the deed of anyone who acts for the pleasure of the created by way of hypocrisy, that deed too will remain deprived of thawab, reward. It is in terms of this general sense that some revered Sahaba have declared the Kharjites as the substantiation of this verse. Then, there are some commentators who take the Mu'tazila, the Rawafid, and some others as the groups who have strayed away from the straight path. But in the next verse, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 105, it has been determined that meant at this place are those particular disbelievers who deny the verses of Allah Ta'ala and the coming of Qiyamah and the hereafter. It was said, those are the ones who disbelieved in the signs of their Lord and in the meeting with Him. Therefore, Al-Qurtubi, Abu Hayyan, Majari, and others prefer the view that really meant at this place are particular disbelievers who deny Allah, the last day, and the reckoning of deeds. But apparently, too, even those people whose deeds were ruined by their corrupted beliefs, and whose effort had gone waste, cannot remain unaffected by its general sense. As for the related sayings reported from Sayyidina Ali and Sidi, may Allah be pleased with him, this is precisely what they mean. Qurtubi.
They are those whose effort is lost in worldly life, while they think that they are doing well in work.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 103 for the Tafsir.
Those are the ones who disbelieve in the verses of their Lord and in their meeting Him, so their deeds have become worthless, and we will not assign to them on the day of resurrection any importance.
The last sentence in the same verse, Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 105, and we shall not assign to them any weight, means that their deeds may appear to be great outwardly, but when placed on the balance of reckoning, they will carry no weight. The reason is that these deeds will be of no use and will not carry any weight because of kafir, disbelief, and shirk, ascribing of partners to Allah. According to a hadith of Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, appearing in the Sahih of Al-Bukhari and Muslim, the Holy Prophet said, "On the day of Qiyamah, there will come a tall and heady man who, in the sight of Allah, will not be worth the weight of a mosquito." Then he said, "If you wish to verify it, recite this verse of the Qur'an, and we shall not assign to them any weight." Sayyidina Abu Sa'id al-Khudri says, "On the day of Qiyamah, deeds as big as the mountains of Tihama will be brought in, but they will carry no weight on the balance of justice." Qatu by.
That is their recompense, hell, for what they denied, and because they took my signs and my messengers in ridicule.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 105, for the Tafsir.
Indeed, those who have believed and done righteous deeds, they will have the gardens of paradise as a lodging.
The word, gardens of Firdaus, means a verdant valley full of fruits and flowers with reference to paradise. However, difference exists as to the origin of this word. Is it Arabic or is it non-Arabic? Those who call it non-Arabic have to refine it further. Is it Persian or Greco-Roman or Syriac? There are different views about this. It appears in the Sahih of Al-Bukhari and Muslim that the Holy Prophet said, "When you ask Allah, ask for Jannat al-Firdaus, because it is the highest and the superior most rank of Jannah. Above it, there is the throne of the Rahman, and from it issue forth all streams of Jannah." Qatu by.
Wherein they abide eternally. They will not desire from it any transfer.
The purpose of the last sentence, "and will not wish to move from there," is to tell that this station of Jannah is a never-ending, everlasting blessing for them. The reason is that Allah Ta'ala has promulgated His command to the effect that whoever has entered Jannah will never be expelled from there. But there was the possibility of some doubt crossing someone's heart, for human beings naturally get fed up by living at one place. They wish to move out and go to other places. Now, if they were not allowed to go elsewhere out of Jannah, they might start feeling the pinch of a sort of restriction. This was answered in the verse by saying that taking Jannah on the analogy of other places is rank ignorance. Once a person goes into the Jannah, everything he saw and lived with in the mortal world would find all the trifling in the presence of the bliss and beauty of Jannah, and so blessed in that manner no one would ever even think of going out of here.
Say, if the sea were ink for writing the words of my Lord, the sea would be exhausted before the words of my Lord were exhausted, even if we brought the like of it as a supplement.
See Surah Al-Kahf, Ayah 108, for the Tafsir.
Say, I am only a man like you, to whom has been revealed that your God is one God. So whoever would hope for the meeting with his Lord, let him do righteous work and not associate in the worship of his Lord anyone.
Commentary. The cause of the revelation of the last verse of Surah Al-Kahf, "and must not associate anyone in the worship of his Lord," as mentioned in hadith reports, shows that shirk at this place means hidden shirk, that is, hypocrisy. One such narration from Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, has been reported by Imam Hakim in Al-Mustadrak as being sound on the criterion set forth by the two authorities, Al-Bukhari and Muslim. According to the narration, one of the Muslims used to carry out jihad in the way of Allah. Side by side, he wished that his soldiering and bravery in the cause be recognized and appreciated by the people. This verse was revealed about him, which tells us that one gets no thawab reward by having such an intention in jihad. In Kitab al-Liqyas, Ibn Abi Haytham and Ibn Abi al-Dunya have reported from Tawas that a Sahabi stated before the Holy Prophet, "There are occasions when I am ready to worship, or to do some righteous deed. My aim thereby is nothing but the pleasure of Allah. But, along with it, I do have the wish that people would see me doing it." Hearing this, he observed silence until the cited verse was revealed. And in Abu Naim, and in the history of Ibn Asakir, it appears on the authority of Sayyidina Ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, that whenever the Sahabi, Sayyidina Jundab ibn Zuhair, may Allah be pleased with him, prayed, fasted, or gave in charity, and then saw people admiring him for doing those deeds, he felt pleased about it, and would then increase the frequency of those deeds. Thereupon this verse was revealed. The gist of narrations given above is that the shirk prohibited in this verse is the hidden shirk of showing off, riya, and that a deed may though be for Allah alone, but along with it, should it become associated with some selfish motive of name, fame, and recognition, then this too will be a kind of hidden shirk, something that makes one's deed go waste, even harmful. However, there are some other Sahih hadith which apparently seem to indicate otherwise. For example, Tirmidhi, he reports from Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, that he submitted before the Holy Prophet, "There are times when I am on my prayer mat inside my house making salah, and all of a sudden there comes someone. I like it that he saw me in that state. Would that be riya?" The Holy Prophet said, "O Abu Hurairah, may Allah have mercy on you. Then you get 2 rewards, one for the deed you were already doing in secret, and the other for what you did openly after the coming of that person. This is no riya." And according to a narration of Sayyidina Abu Dihar al-Ghifari appearing in the Sahih of Muslim, the Holy Prophet was asked, "What do you say about a person who does some good deed and hears people praising it?" The Holy Prophet said, "This is instant good news for the believer, that his deed was accepted with Allah, and he had his servants praise it." The apparent difference in these 2 kinds of narrations has been resolved and brought in agreement in Tafsir of Maarif-ul-Qur'an. It says that the first kind of narrations about the cause of the revelation of the verse apply to a particular situation. This is when one associates his intention to please people, or to earn a good name for himself along with the intention of seeking the pleasure of Allah through his deed, to the extent that he further increases the frequency of that deed on being praised by people for it. This is no doubt hypocrisy, riya, and hidden shirk. And the latter narrations, both from Tirmidhi and Muslim, concern another situation. This is when one has acted for the pleasure of Allah alone without any inclination of receiving publicity or praise for it, and then Allah Ta'ala, in His grace, gives him fame by making people praise him. If so, it has nothing to do with riya, showing off. In fact, this is spontaneous good news for the believer, that his deed has found acceptance with Allah. Riya and its evil consequences, stern warnings of hadith. Say, Ibn Muhammad ibn Labid, may Allah be pleased with him, reports that the Holy Prophet said, "What I fear most about you is minor shirk." The Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with him, asked, "Ya Rasulallah, what is minor shirk?" He said, "Riya, to do something only to show people," reported by Ahmad in his Musnad. After having reported this hadith in Shu'ab al-Iman, al-Bayhaqi has also reported the remarks on the day of Qiyamah, when Allah Ta'ala will reward his servants for their deeds. He will ask the practitioners of riya to go for their rewards to those they wanted to impress with their deeds and find out whether or not they have any for them. Sayyidina Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, reports that the Holy Prophet said, Allah Ta'ala says, "I am free and above from associating with those associated with me. Whoever does a good deed and then associates in it someone else with me, then I leave the entire deed for the one associated. And according to another narration, I withdraw from that deed, making it exclusive for the person associated with me." Narrated by Muslim. And Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, reports that he heard the Holy Prophet saying, "Whoever does a good deed to earn a fair name among people, then Allah Ta'ala too deals with him in a manner that he is disgraced before them." Narrated by Ahmad and Shu'ab al-Im from Tafsir Majari. It appears in Tafsir al-Qutub by that Sayyidina Hasan al-Basri, may Allah have mercy on him, was asked about ikaz, unalloyed sincerity, and riya, showing off. He said, "Ikaz requires that your good deeds remaining hidden should be what you like, and the bad deeds remaining hidden should be what you do not like. After that, if Allah Ta'ala discloses your deeds before the people, you should say, Allah, all this is your grace and favor, not the outcome of my deed and effort." And Tirmidhi, he reports from Ibn Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, that the Holy Prophet once mentioned shirk by saying, "It is right there in you more stealthily, in the soundless movement of an ant." Then, he added, "I tell you something which, if you do, you will remain safe against all sorts of shirk, major or minor. Riya, make this prayer. Do it 3 times every day. O Allah, I seek refuge with you lest I associate a partner with you while I know, and I seek forgiveness from you for what I do not know." Some merits and properties of Surah Al-Kahf. Sayyidina Abu al-Darda, may Allah be pleased with him, reports that the Holy Prophet said, "Whoever remembers to recite the first 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will remain safe against the fitna, upheaval, trial, caused by Dajjal, Antichrist," reported by Muslim, Ahmad, Abu Dawud and Al-Nasai, and Imam Ahmad, Muslim and Al-Nas. I have reported within this narration from Sayyidina Abu al-Darda words to the effect that whoever remembers to recite the last 10 verses of Surah Al-Kahf will remain safe against the fitna of Dajjal. And according to a narration of Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, the Holy Prophet said, whoever recites the initial and the concluding verses of Surah Al-Kahf will have light for him from his feet up to his head. And whoever recites this surah in full will have light for him from the ground up to the sky. Reported by Ibn al-Sunni and Ahmad in his Musnad, and as narrated by Sayyidina Abu said, may Allah be pleased with him, the Holy Prophet said, whoever recites Surah Al-Kahf in full on the day of Jumu'ah will have light for him until the next Jumu'ah. Reported and declared as Sahih by Al-Hakim and Al-Bayhaqi and Al-Dawat from Ash'ari to Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, someone said, I resolve in my heart to wake up in the later part of night and make salah, but sleep overtakes me. Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas, may Allah be pleased with him, said to him, recite the last verses of Surah Al-Kahf from to the end of the surah before you sleep. Then the time you intend to wake up will be the time when Allah Ta'ala will wake you up. Reported by Afa Alabai, and according to the Musnad of Al-Darimi, Zerd ibn Hubaysh told Abda, anyone who sleeps after having recited these last verses will wake up at the time he or she intends to. And Abda says, we have tried this repeatedly. It happens just like that. An important word of advice. Ibn al-Arabi quotes a Shaykh Tartushi, let not the hours of your dear life pass away confronting contemporaries and socializing with friends. Watch out. Allah Ta'ala has concluded his statement on the following verse, so the one who hopes to meet his Lord must do righteous deed and must not associate anyone in the worship of his Lord. Al-Qur'an 2 by